2011 Single Family Design Board. Kathleen, would you call roll, please?
Chair Dessler?
Here.
Dennis Woolery?
Here.
Aaron Carl?
Here.
Brian Miller?
Here.
Tim Zimmerman?
Here.
Paul Thick?
Here.
All right, thank you. At this point, I'd like to open up public comment. Any member of the public may address the Single Family Design Board for up to 2 minutes on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled for the public discussion for today. The total time is 2 minutes. Not seeing anybody stand, we'll close public comment and move to the approval of the minutes for the April 11, 2011 Single Family Design Board. Do I have a motion for approval? First by Paul. Second by Jim. Everybody has the minutes. Is there any changes or modifications? We'll go item by item. Let me see. The first item was Jorgensen Lane. Any comments regarding that item? The second one was Shoreline Drive. Any modifications? Third, Manitou Road. Comments? No? The fourth item was Almond Avenue. And the fifth was Vista Del Mar Drive. Any comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Bernie?
On item 2, if you look at on 1202 Shoreline, it's just under number 4. It's so weak. Study possibly reducing the massing. I mean, that doesn't really say we would appreciate some reduction in massing. Page 5, item 4.
Item 2 of
1202 Shoreline, item 4, study possibly reducing.
Okay, Denise was the first on this, so you might have to weigh in if that language is strong enough or represents what you feel was the motion. Do you remember that project?
recall.
It was a hip roofs around on the shoreline.
We could alter that to eliminate the word possibly.
So it'd be study reducing.
Yes, the mass.
Is that okay with the majority of the board?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll make that change. We'll go back to item 6, Del Mar Avenue. Is there any comments on that project? Okay, so that was the full minutes of the hearing. We'll make the modifications to that one project and take a vote on those. All those in favor of the changes or approval of the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstain, no. The motion carries. So we'll go to the consent calendar for April 18th, 2011. Approval. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'll make that motion.
For Denise is first. Second by Brian. I saw that. So Michelle?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. The consent agenda for Monday, April 18th, 2011. We have item A, 1528 Santa Rosa Avenue, received approval as submitted of the review after final. Item B, 1303 Delgara Road, was continued indefinitely with comments. Item C, 2016 Cleveland Avenue, was granted final approval of architecture and landscaping as noted. Item D, 352 El Cielito Road, was granted final approval of architecture with the condition to replace the glass railing with cable railing, and the landscaping was continued indefinitely. Item E, 237 San Nicolas, was granted final approval with conditions. Item F, 1117 Las Alturas Road, was continued 1 week and referred to today's full board meeting with comments. Item G, 260 Eucalyptus Hill Drive, was continued indefinitely with comments. And the consent calendar items reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Denise Foolery, with the exceptions of item E, 237 San Nicolas, were reviewed by Paul Zink and Denise Foolery. And item G was reviewed by Jim Zimmerman, Denise Foolery, and Paul Zink.
Thank you. Okay. Are there any discussion about those items? I did see on item G, it talks about study 2 clear story windows, and it's really clear story windows, so you might want to...
They were actually two separate.
Clear story?
two separate clear story. Yes.
Is it clear?
CLERE.
Clear stories.
Clear.
Okay, it just doesn't read as
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but the way the notes
No,
say it,
that's not how you spell it.
yeah, it's one word, clear story. That's all.
There's more than one.
There's two clear stories. Is there any other items or comments on that agenda or on that calendar? So we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the calendar as read? Aye. Opposed? And abstained? Okay, the motion carries. So we'll move to the April 25th, 2011 consent calendar. I have a motion for approval. Jim and then Bernie, seconded. Michelle?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The consent agenda for today, Monday, April 25th, 2011. Item A, 1109 Luneta Plaza, was continued indefinitely to consent with comments of the review after final. Item B, 1436 Manitou Road, was granted final approval as submitted. And item C, 1547 Shoreline Drive, was received positive comments and was continued indefinitely to the Planning Commission to return to consent. Items reviewed by Jim Zimmerman and Denise Woolery.
All right, thank you. Is there any discussion about any of those items? Bernie?
1547, have we seen that project?
No, and it's just a minor landscaping project that happens to need a coastal development permit, and it will not come to the full board unless the consent members direct it to.
Okay. Any more discussion on those items? Okay, I'll take a vote on the calendar. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. So we'll move to announcements. I'd like to make an announcement. I have to step down from the last item, which I think is item number 6. So Denise will be scooting over. Maybe, Paul, you can assist in the vice chair on deck kind of role. Michelle, are there any other announcements?
No.
Okay, so we're all here. All right. Subcommittee, we'll move to subcommittee reports, which we do not have any at this point, and we're ready for item number 1. This project was reviewed on consent April 11, 2011, and referred to the full board. I'm going to read the agenda. Proposal to construct a 244 square foot first floor addition and new 244 square foot second story roof deck above the proposed addition to an existing 2-story 1,771 square foot single family residence with an attached 378 square foot 2-car garage. The proposed total of 2,333 square feet on a 6,814 square foot lot located in the non-appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone is 81% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. If you could introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Mark Winke, Architects, Workshop Architecture Group.
Wayne Caswell, owner.
All right, welcome. And if you could, your presentation, sir.
Okay. Since we're on the first page here, this is the view from the back. It's only a rear addition. It's the kitchen dining area here in the back, which includes the area you see from about here to here. The rest of it's existing house, including the second story. The existing second story has a deck, smaller, as you can see from the photographs. This addition will just have a flat roof with the new proposed planters on either side, which will help make the deck smaller and push it away from the property line, western property line. And we can see that, yeah, there you go. That picture shows that. That's the existing deck. So the addition's kind of going in this zone right here, as I mentioned.
Okay.
The two side areas on either side are going to have the planter. In the front area, it has the steel rail, as you saw. So there's the yellow area represents the addition, and this is getting renovated inside.
That's including this area as well, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that's it for that. Everything else is shown there. Bigger scale, this the same thing. So this shows the roof plan, but also second story level. So this was there, we talked about at consent, which was creating a planter, raised planter area. I did it on both sides because I think it looks better and more symmetrical. Creates the roof deck proper, separate back from the property line and back from away from the edge. As you can see from the neighboring property, it slopes off a little bit. They also have a backyard area. There's a deck on theirs. Everyone has a deck here. It's a great view of the ocean. And the area down below continues to slope off. For those neighbors, there's plants and trees in that area, so we didn't feel this particular area was a problem if people stood on the deck to look at the view of looming into the neighborhood below. And that's the elevations, just like you saw in the rendering. Basically, this cable steel rail area and sticks out of that far. That's it. Well, the pictures did show the panoramic that we took from standing on the new deck
Let's get those pictures on the camera.
and looking
again.
down to below and to the side.
So explain the panorama again. Is it that's up here or so?
Yeah.
You can see upside down.
So the far left is there. That's the neighbor to the east. It's directly below south. And you can see there's the roof of the neighbor to the below. I really should stay on your side.
Yeah, you can see the existing mature landscaping in there on the border.
And then to the far right, in other words, the western neighbor from this is our deck, your deck.
So this is your deck. This swimming pool is your neighbor's, right?
The neighbors, yeah.
And that would be in back of this house? This is your property here?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
All right. Any more for your presentation?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to open up public comment. I don't have any public comment slips. Is there anybody from the public that would like to comment on this project? Not seeing anybody jump up. Is there any comments in the file? Okay. We'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions for the applicant.
Sure. I think I misspoke. We do have some letters from the applicant, or some of the neighbors.
Okay. What do you
Sorry
have?
about that.
There's three.
Have they been submitted to the staff at all yet?
No.
Okay.
Those are the three that are downslope. I would
Do you
say.
have-
The one,
A site plan that would kind of reflect where these people would be?
let's
This
see.
is your property, right?
Yeah, we'll start with Mrs. Swanson here. She is right there.
Right here?
Yeah, her lot is one of the larger lots in that area, so her place is pretty visible from all our balconies and decks up here. And obviously, she has no opposition. She signed
So
a
it's
letter to that effect.
1336, okay.
And the neighbor there,
Right behind you?
yeah, he was the one I mentioned to Denise, and Jim is a renter. And they said he might not have got noticed initially, so I went and talked to him, and he signed off, no opposition as well. And then the other one that we see down into is this one, and that is, this is Aurora, is our immediate neighbor right here. This fellow I talked to, but he didn't return the letter for
This location, and this location.
Yeah, I don't know why he didn't return yet, but he's not opposed.
Okay.
And this one is non-owner occupied, so there's no opposition from him. He told me that he had talked to somebody from the city and he wasn't opposed, but I don't have anything signed by him.
Okay, so we'll submit these to our file, and we'll bring it back to the board for their questions, please. Yes, Bernie.
So this roof deck, it isn't calculated at all whatsoever in the FAR, correct?
That is correct. Decks are not enclosed habitable area and therefore are never counted as part of the FAR.
I have a question for the applicant. The second floor has a roof deck, obviously, that we saw. Do you know the distance between this roof deck and the property line?
I think it's 6-foot setback, the whole thing here. There's a fence between our properties.
But this
And that's
distance...
3.5, 4 feet from there to there.
Okay. Additional questions? Anybody? So move to comments.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Denise.
One of the reasons that we felt we should come back to the full board was that when you look at the photos of, again, of the existing flat, here, you can see that, this house is pretty close from that. Now, this new deck is going to be way further out there. So I felt that this person's privacy would be heavily impinged upon. Anyway, I felt that the person downhill would be, their privacy would be impinged upon, plus the view of the swimming pool next door. This is the existing, and the new would be even further out. So one thing that the applicant did is add the 2 planters, since we saw them, which I think is a really good touch, and it helps a lot in the situation.
Okay, so you reviewed it, you and I think Jim reviewed
Yes.
it on consent, and it has been modified slightly since that
Yes.
to include the planters. Okay, any more comments? Comments? Okay, comments from the rest of the board? Sure. Ms. Aaron.
I think the 9.5 feet is generally acceptable with the planters there. I think the design's quite nice. I just think that they should consider either some high plants in that planter or some trees along this the fence line there. It's particularly the privacy between that pool and the deck.
Okay.
But generally speaking.
Well, I'd like to comment on the planter. You're running the rail around the top of the planter too.
Yeah.
How much of a rail are you running around there? Is that like
It's like
4 to 5 inches?
it's
something
8
like that?
inches, I believe, or a foot somewhere. It had, yeah.
I know design-wise, it probably looks better to incorporate that rail around there, but a few inches higher would help in giving the neighbors some privacy. And I'm not sure if that's really necessary.
What, the height of the rail or the...
Running a rail around there, because it's just a planter now.
Okay.
And just that few inches, I think, would help.
Of the wall.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the guardrail 3 feet 6?
No, not since January 1st.
Cool.
Go back and change. You got to pay attention every January.
Am I on? Yeah. When we came up with our design guidelines that took years and years and years, one of the things that a lot of people were arguing about were these roof decks, because it was anticipated that we would be seeing a lot of these coming up, and they do impact the neighborhood in a big way. And this one, for me in particular, I think it's too much development for this lot, and I think it's really impacting the neighborhood and not in compliance with our guidelines.
Thank you. Paul, you haven't weighed in.
I mean, the guideline is 15 feet, and that's what's printed in the book, and that's what we look for. And so when it's less than 15, we have to look for, call it mitigation or call for circumstances. You could put the railing, 4.5 feet right at the deck line instead of at the planter line, and you could put the railing at 4.5 feet or 5 feet high, and that would provide a little bit more of a visual blockade. You still have the view out, and you don't have to have your symmetrical planter. That's your choice as a designer. But I didn't write the rules, but the rules are 15 feet. The guideline is 15 feet. And because the other neighbor has a pool and a lot of outdoor activity, it's the reason why the rule guidelines in place.
All right. I immediately, obviously, this is one of the key things that the board's looking at is this 15-foot rule. So we're impinging on that rule. And we also have sort of an area here of what says planter, but we know nothing about what is the planter. What will be there? Will it provide screening? Will it? We're trying to understand how is this deck going to be screened from the neighbor if it's impinging on the 15-foot. So there's ways of doing it. There's a screen wall, some sort of planting that hopefully will maintain at a certain height. So we're looking kind of at you as to how are you going to provide that screening? It's just, it doesn't meet our guidelines right now.
Right, and we knew that coming in because our biggest problem is it's the existing second-story French doors are there. We couldn't move the deck over, and it would be halfway into the windows. So we came up with this option, which was to provide a planter where plants would grow higher than the deck area to help screen. So when you're in this particular area set back from the property line, you actually would have a difficult time seeing over the plants. And we also like the idea of adding some trees in here. We noticed that the neighbor who has the pool and is supposedly the most impacted by all this his rear property is denuded of any landscaping altogether, and that's their choice, you know. And so we think having the 6-foot area here with a couple of trees to help protect view from them and from them up to us would be also very beneficial.
Do you have a landscape plan showing trees or what's going to be in that planter?
We don't know.
Okay.
No, not yet.
Have you considered any sort of screen wall here?
We didn't want to make it, at least at this point, any more aggressive and taller than it needed to be without meeting with the board. One of the options of having this rail exposed was to allow the plants to grow on them like a vine, and we could extend that rail up further to act as a more of a catalyst for the plants to grow on top of it. That would be successful.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments that we want to share? I'm kind of getting a little bit of a mixed feeling. I'm not quite sure where the board is standing on this one. I think we might have to go to a straw poll to see if this current design is acceptable, because I haven't heard yes from the majority of the board members, I don't think.
Why don't we have a straw vote with an extension on the side of some sort of a screen?
Well, let's get a straw vote on what we see right now. Let's just see if this is acceptable, and then we can maybe modify it to see. Because so, I'd like to see a hand vote for acceptance of this project to meet our to meet the guidelines for the roof deck and the position of it in relationship to the property line. All those that would feel if this is compatible and meets our guidelines, say, raise your hand. So 2. So all those not would probably be 5. So right now, this design it's not compatible according to the board. So you have an opportunity to use that.
Well, we know it's not compatible. That's why we came in with the 9 feet. Because, but we're here to make this, for you guys to say that the circumstances are acceptable for the distance back at 9.5 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is, with the planter and the options to preliminary approval with trees.
I'm just making the motion assuming it with the current design, not...
Right.
So I'm not sure the vote would change.
Where I would say is the existing doors is a reason why it's going to be less than 15 feet. But because it's less than 15 feet, something has to be given, additional information about the height, because the reason why it's supposed to be 15 feet is to protect the neighbor's privacy. So you need to provide additional information about what the plants are going to be, or a taller height of a guardrail, because the height that you have noted there isn't going to be sufficient. And the idea of maybe vines growing on it when there isn't vines noted there. So I would say I'm okay with the planter, and I'm okay with it being 12 or 15, or 9 feet, 10 feet, whatever it is, because of the existing door. That's your existing condition. But you need to address the neighborhood privacy or neighborhood visual.
So again, additional information, and I think we're all hinting very hard at some sort of screening issue.
Right. Not just plants.
Well, it potentially could be plants, but we don't know what's being proposed. We don't see a plan.
Well, if this was acceptable in the architectural form, we could come back with what plants would be acceptable.
I think you need to
consent.
go it backwards. We can't find it acceptable without knowing what the plants are. And I would personally like to see some sort of more permanent screening than just plants, because those could just go away very quickly.
Mr. Chair?
Bernie?
Well, I think we should also talk about the size of the deck and whether, if they do more screening and come back, whether we think, because there's a lot of homes right now that have decks and roof decks that are being screened, that are being walled off. There's no follow-up on any of this stuff. And something this big, I really think we should be careful and look at it carefully and look at the neighborhood and see what impacts it might have, and does it conform to our guidelines.
Okay, good point. So I'd like to take another straw poll that basically ignores the issue of screening and the 15-foot guideline, and just saying, here's a roof deck of a certain square footage in this neighborhood, in this general position, assuming it's screened adequately for the board. How many members of the board would feel that this is acceptable and compatible with the neighborhood? So I think it's 5 out of 6 feel that the roof deck is. We don't necessarily feel it's properly done yet, but the size of it we feel could be compatible if it was properly screened. So that's good. That's good. So I'd like to, see a motion of just having the applicant provide, again, as Paul put it together pretty well, of more information and specific about the issue of screening towards the western portion. And, a landscape plan would probably go a long way. So is there anybody willing to make a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
Second. Is that a... Yeah.
Applicant to return back to full board, 2-week continuance if that's fine, providing additional information about the screening and the landscaping proposed for the upper story deck.
Okay, so that's the motion. Who seconded it? Did anybody second?
Aaron did.
Aaron second. Any discussion about that item or that motion? Okay, so we'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed and abstained. Okay. So the motion carries. So we'll see you. I'm sorry? Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We have to maintain that one. Oh, you got one? Okay.
You got the second?
So we're going to move to 1233 Mission Ridge Road. We've seen this project. This is actually the 5th time the project has been in front of our board. I'm not necessarily going to read the full agenda. We'll read the minutes from the previous meeting.
I missed the last meeting, and I haven't had a chance to review the meeting. I have to step down on this.
All right, thank you. You don't have to step away.
I just can't
but-
vote. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So,
Want me to read it?
let me go.
Okay, here we are. This is
Is
it.
that the right?
Yeah, this is the one because it was about the thickness of the portal.
Okay. So Denise is going to read the comments from the previous meeting to get us started. Make sure you're on.
Okay, I'm on.
Okay.
Number 1, provide additional information through the use of sections through the property building, utilizing existing topography and noting pitches, elevations, and all plate and ridge heights on the plans. Number 2, the board appreciates the entry portal design, however, suggests the applicant study reducing the thickness of the entry portal to reduce its bulk. Number 3, study the height of the secondary building and reduce the ridge heights where possible. 4, study shifting the main house to the east and north without affecting the health of the existing oak trees if possible. 5, there is sufficient photo documentation to allow the removal of the story poles. 6, look for all opportunities to reduce height of the main building. 7, clearly show reductions by providing working drawing sections to accurately depict the elevations and any associated reductions. And number 8, the board finds the overall project to be acceptable in architecture and design style and looks for additional information and study to refine the project.
All right, thank you. I see some staff people gathering here, so I'm going to kind of open the staff before the presentation. Hi.
Good afternoon, Chair Geisler and board members. Kelly Broadison. I was the assistant planner assigned to this project, and I just wanted to comment that this project was approved by the staff hearing officer on January 26th and subsequently appealed to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission denied the appeal and upheld the staff hearing officer's approval on March 10th, and the project came back to you on March 28th, and you, as a board, had asked for several, to ask the applicant to study some things in the size of the building, and the applicant has reduced the size of the building and done several little changes to the project, which they'll explain in further detail. So, as you know, it's been to the Design Review Board 4 times, and the Planning Commission approval has already been appealed to Council. So just to bring you guys up to speed on
So
that.
currently it is under appeal for the Planning Commission
The
approval?
applicant has appealed the denial of the prior appeal to Council, because staff hearing officer appeals go to Planning Commission.
Yes.
Design Review Board appeals go to Council. So it's already been to Planning Commission on appeal, and if it continues to be appealed, it will go to Council now. And we would take, at that time, we would take the Planning Commission appeal and a potential Design Review Board appeal to the Council at one time instead of taking it twice.
All right.
Does that make
Thank you.
sense?
Danny, are you going to do not the... Okay. All right. So we'll close staff comments and we'll bring it back to the applicants. If you could introduce yourself, please.
Hi, I'm Mark Shields with Design Art.
Welcome.
And I'm Tom Sanborn, the applicant.
Welcome. And we've read the minutes. What have you done since the last
What
meeting?
have we done? Well, that's a good question. Since our last meeting, we've kind of taken your words to heart and gone back and re-looked at the plans and sections, grading plan to see what we can do to kind of push the project more in your direction. And so with that, I'd like to start with the grading plan. Would you mind turning the page to the grading plan there? I wanted to also mention that along with, I think we forgot to mention this at the last meeting, along with Jim Austin with the fire department, who was fine with the project, we also met with transportation at the same site meeting, and they were also fine with the improvements. So we, like I said last time at our last meeting, we can adjust the site a little bit. We didn't have a lot of room, but we looked carefully at everything. I want to kind of run through the grading plan quickly with everybody to show you what we've done. Overall, in terms of the entire project, we were able to drop this garage area 6 inches. There's a line right here where we were able to take the entire project and drop it a foot. The guest house we were able to also lower 6 inches. So that's just in general. And we were able to do that by carefully studying where the end of Green Ridge Lane occurs. And we bent up this one topo at 688, pushing it up the hill, actually sinking the motor court a bit more, 6 inches actually, which creates more of a retaining wall for us on the north side, but we were able to do that, still allowing for our 1/8 inch per foot drainage across the parking area and down around the corner of the house in between the 2 oak trees. With that being said, the house steps down at this line and again makes 2 more steps down into the courtyard. So this area is sunken to a certain extent. Looking at the finished floor of the dining room, we weren't happy with lowering this much, but feel that we're approximately level with the oak tree at this point in time, so that made sense to us. We still have the delicate situation here of the oak tree roots and cutting in this area, so we thought that was about as far as we could go. And then the house reacts appropriately for comfort level to this dining room floor elevation as you move through it. We've created a very shallow swale here through the oaks and drains around the house this way. Our western portion of the project is actually now slightly below grade 2, so we're actually cutting here as well. So overall, we're cutting and lowering the house overall, and that was about 84 yards of cut, actually all told, 42 cut and 42 fill. So overall, we still have a balanced site. So I want to then take a look at the elevations to show you what that means in terms of the building height. I think the most significant elevation, and probably the most important elevation relative to the neighborhood, is this north elevation. And we've got a couple lines in here which indicates movement over time. Working with you guys. Gradually getting lower. Sure, if we work for another year, it might just completely disappear, but at this point in time. This line, this is the north elevation, so this line represents the 30-foot height limit. This line indicates where we were at the last meeting, and so overall, everything's dropped a foot all the way around the project. We've indicated accurate tops of tile from finished grade, which isn't that significant. It's only 23 feet, and then down here we're at 17.8. So it's not that tall a building when you're standing at grade, especially now that we've lowered it so much. We've also studied the living room in section, and in addition to the foot drop with the overall grading changes, we're able to grab another 9 inches in section out of the central mass of the building, and so that ridge line has been reduced to 21 inches. And like I said last time, we're talking about inches, not feet, so it's almost 2 feet in the center of the house, which I think is significant. The height diagram on the eastern elevation shows you again how much we've dropped the building, a whole foot in this situation. And I might point out that we're about 2 feet now below the height limit line, and that's only at the very, very peak of the furthermost ridge. As you head more northerly, we're 10 plus feet below the height limit. So I think that's positive. I want to point out the other elevations. So moving around the project, again, on the southerly elevation, you can see where we were. This is our old line before we've made all the design changes. This is our significant 1 foot down and then 21 inches drop in the center of the project, which I think is also significant. Again, on the western elevation, the 6-inch drop for the garages, a foot drop for the more southerly portions of the project. I also want to point out on the portal, I think it was Denise who made the comment that people were feeling it was a bit too deep, and so we were able to shrink the portal about 2 feet after carefully studying. We still like it, it's just a bit shallower by 2 feet. So I think that was a nice improvement as well. In addition to the main residence, we also took a look at the guest house, and along with the 6-inch drop at the northerly portion of the site, the guest house follows that 6-inch drop. So we cut the guest house in another 6 inches and also restudied the guest house in section, carefully seeing to what can we reduce that ridge height a bit, and we felt that we could. So overall, we reduced the ridge height by both dropping it in grade and redoing the sections so we have lower plate heights. Our overall drop, I believe, was 2 feet for the ridge line of the guest house. So I think that's significant as well. If I could go backwards for a second. I want to briefly, since you guys are making us do working drawings already, we thought we'd show you one. Anyway, this is our section, our overall couple sections, which technically get into establishing all of our heights. So if you need verification or this sort of solidifies everything we've been doing in elevation. It shows you our plate heights and our ridge heights and everything else relative to the existing and finished grade. Okay. I also wanted to discuss the idea that you suggested last time of moving the house more easterly. Well, we've been working with the neighbors below, and we felt after chatting with them and clarifying the issues with them that to move the property more the project more easterly starts to again impact their privacy, which we've always been concerned about, and we've always been working towards solving this issue. One of the reasons that removing the guest house helped is we were looking sideways into their upper bedroom window, and the more we move our project easterly, the more that starts happening again. So we elected, after having conversations with the southerly neighbors, that rather than moving the project more easterly, it doesn't help them. In fact, it creates a problem for them. So we haven't moved the project easterly. I think now I can introduce the landscape plan, which we actually met with Ann Marks at the city fire department regarding the high fire issues, and she was comfortable with the plan. She had a few suggestions relative to the ceanothus in terms of what type of ceanothus was acceptable. We chatted about what trees we can plant adjacent or closer to the building, and she felt that a fruit tree could come closer to the building. She was happy with our succulents. Aaron, we looked into moving the palm. You suggested the palm to the east be shifted down away from the oaks a bit, so we've done that. We chatted about the olives, and she felt that the olive trees were okay as long as they were within 15 feet of the building. And we added a tree, which I want to note down here, in an effort to help with our neighbors to the south privacy. And I want to point out this photograph shows that there's always been a bit of a concern about our master bedroom deck looking down into the neighbor's yard, and the latest compromise or attempt to solve this problem after a lot of conversations with the Gainies is to plant a tree on our property that effectively blocks the view of the end of their yard or pool, which they're concerned about, and will grow on our property to hide that view until the trees they've planted grow up to the proper height. So we're still working on an agreement, and it's basically a letter of understanding which balances the issue of privacy and views for both parties. So I think that is moving in a good direction. Also, I wanted to point out that Ann Marks stamped the landscape plan, so that's kind of behind us. And let's see, Tom, do you have anything else to add?
I think that covers it.
Move on?
Yeah, it's hold what time we could to respond if there's any new issues that are raised.
Okay.
I do want to have add one more exhibit to our at the last meeting, Mr. Chatello presented a rendering of the project from the neighbor's property. And as an architect, I thought it didn't look to me like the project, our project. So we made the effort and did our own SketchUp model of the real view from the property next door, and maybe this will help give you the feeling that the project fits into the neighborhood decently.
So your building is tucked
It's
in this
behind all
area.
those trees, which is the reality.
And this view is taken from where?
It's from 2 doors down, and I would...
It is taken from Mr. Shaitilla's clients. So we took
Property.
the same photo that they used
same
to
angle.
generate their view.
Yeah,
and,
this is... Oops,
yeah,
just on the second page there. This was the initial view. But in reality, it's modeled incorrectly, and we still have a lot of landscaping in the foreground. So,
Okay.
and with that, I'd like to thank the board for their patience and help. And overall, I think we've worked hard. We've respected the oaks. There's no mods, no solar issues. We've eliminated all the encroachments. Listened to the SFDB. Made design compromises, and we're here asking for preliminary approval.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'd like to move to public comment. I have a bunch of public comment slips. Most of these speakers probably have spoken before at previous meetings. I don't know that for sure until I go through them. We appreciate you being here. We do want to be efficient. Everybody does get 2 minutes. We do ask that if you've spoken before at a previous meeting and have expressed your comments, you don't necessarily have to repeat them for the third or fourth time, since this is the fifth meeting. You might want to say my concerns are the same as the previous meeting instead of taking the full 2 minutes and just we hear it, 10 different times the same comment. But they are important. So if you have any new comments regarding the project or the adjustments to the projects, we'd love to hear them. So at this point, I'd like to bring public comment in order. And the first slip that I have is Judy Denenholtz. And we're going to ask Mr. Sanborn maybe to change seats and have that seat available. The next speaker will be David Denenholtz.
Hi, I'm Judy Denenholtz. My husband and I own 1225 Mission Ridge Road. We very much appreciate the fact that the project has been before the board 5 times. There have been a number of changes. The size, the square footage, I don't think has been changed in this last modification. I think only the ridge heights, right? And so that means that the project still is in a very excessive FAR. I know the FARs are merely guidelines, but when you have a project that's already been given, although it's on appeal, an exceptional permit to have 2 residences in a high-fire single residence neighborhood, it doesn't seem that the FAR should be on the high end. It should be rather in the middle or on the low end. And in particular, I'm concerned about the garages because, again, it's high fire. This project has, I think, 4 garages and 1 workshop with a garage door on it that looks like a garage. And we're in a neighborhood where every other house is not compatible. Every other house in the neighborhood has only 2 garages. And the extra garages indicate and certainly suggest that there will be more traffic in this high-fire area on a private lane. We, again, appreciate the reductions that have been made. I'm sorry, I've lost my train of thought.
It's okay, take a second.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We hadn't seen the photo that Tom has just, or that they've just put in as an exhibit. I don't really know what it is or how it fits together with the visual simulations which we've had prepared, and we've had additional visual simulation prepared for this meeting, and we will have an expert and an architect available for your information or questioning or whatever. So I'm going to reserve any time for them, if I may, on behalf of my husband and myself. So that would be 2 speakers, and I'm sorry, I kind of forgot part of what I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. And so David Denenholtz is up next.
No, I'm just giving his time.
Okay, so that was that. So Keith Rivera will be the next speaker, followed by Alan Trial.
Thank you. Keith Rivera. As you know, I'm representing the Gainies, the immediate neighbor to the south, and they've had the concerns about the privacy to their yards from the second floor. We've appreciated a series of meetings with the applicant to try to resolve that issue. I concur with what Mark was saying about moving the house to the east would exacerbate the privacy issue for the Gainies. The Gainies and the Sanborns have had the discussion about the landscape plan. They've added that tree that was noted, and if we could maybe flip to that plan.
Landscape plan.
Yeah. So I think there's kind of a design
It's a
solution.
separate page floating around here somewhere.
I think
Here it is.
Landscape-wise, to mitigate
It's done.
the privacy, which is that tree, and to the point where the Gainies have even agreed that if an existing tree on their property happens to grow to the size needed to screen the privacy, they would be happy and that tree could go away as far as they're concerned. I think where it's all boiling down to is basically the language on the landscape plan, and we've been trading suggested notations for the landscape plan. And bottom line is, I think the Gainies just would like the landscape plan to be standalone as far as resolving the screening issue, not refer to a potential separate legal agreement between the two neighbors. They don't really want to go down that road. They will if they have to, but they'd like to avoid it. So sort of like your first project that was on the agenda today, that if the design solution itself can stand alone and solve the privacy between neighbors problems, that would be it, and not have any reference to any other agreement. There's some suggested language I could read if you want. That
you're running out of time quick.
Trading back and forth, but yeah, running out of time. So anyway, thanks.
Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
So Alan Trial.
Alan Trial is not here.
Okay.
That's Beverly Trial.
So Beverly, you'll be next. Beverly Trial.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good afternoon. Members of the board, I have emailed my comments on this application, which you have in your records. I would like to allow Mark Chitello to have my allotted 2 minutes before the board.
Thank you. So Mark, do you want to go last?
Yes, please.
Okay. And then, so we'll go to Edward Easton, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, my name is Edward Easton. I've been a licensed architect in North Carolina, a professor of architecture there, and I've served on the City of Goleta Design Review Board, Planning Commission, and now the City Council. I come to discuss this development, which is, I've looked at it, has made me smile a number of times. Many of us have dreamt of living in a castle. Certainly many architects have sketched one. But the troubles with putting one in a city are enormous, overbearing bulk and monumental scale. Castles are, by their nature, big. And in this proposal, we see one proposed for the midst of Riviera. This is what the visual simulations show looking from above. Scottish castles I'm familiar with have a tower element and a surrounding wall without buildings leaning against it. The detailing of this castle may be Andalusian, but look at the windows on the north and west sides, which face the public. They are only narrow, slit windows piercing the stucco walls, and originally were meant to provide protection for archers. The front entrance is to the house a narrow gate leading into a walled courtyard, which guards the main front door. I thought a domed castle the minute I saw it. Every image from the front is of a fortress meant to repel invaders. The main tower is as tall as I should say, was as tall as is allowed on Santa Barbara's Riviera, 30 feet. Even the single-story elements raise roof peaks to 17 feet. The tower elements on the north and west side show only arrow slits which magnify their bulk. In some walls, there are no windows at all. The massive archway entrance peaks at 14 feet 6 inches. This almost solid mass dominates the entrance road together with its sister tower
Mr.
fragment.
Easton, could you just kind of in 10 seconds kind of finish up your comments, please?
I'll try. I'll leave these to be passed out. Neighborhood compatibility is about being a good neighbor. Buildings do that with design similarity, good vehicle circulation, colors and materials that don't clash, and respect for neighboring windows, views, property lines, and privacy. Size, bulk, and scale are crucial. It's hard to see how this particular design passes any of these compatibility tests. Had I more time, I would have expanded on this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. So we'll move to Mark Chitillo. And Mark, I think you have close to 2 minutes. I'm close to 4 minutes now.
Is it that Dave Dannenholtz and Mr. Trial?
Hopefully I won't need it. I'm Mark Chitillo, and I'm here on behalf of the Dannenholtzes. I wanted to point out that we prepared a second visual simulation reflecting the new heights by Mr. Dowd, who's an acknowledged city contractor and qualified in these sorts of things. And unfortunately, what they show is the house is still quite large. It's still quite massive. It's still bulky, and it still interferes with the ambiance, both from the Dannenholtzes as well as on the second page. You can see, and it might be worth having this on the screen. I'm sorry, I gave copies to the clerk to give each of you. And from the Wright's house has a pretty significant blockage of the view of the ocean. And it's our feeling that the height of the structure doesn't comport with the single-family design guidelines, which require a modest apparent height, and that that this house can meet its functions on a single level basis. We heard last time that the applicant wants to preserve their ocean view in order to see over the neighbor in front of theirs house, and we think that they're doing that to the detriment of the people that are above. We've seen the Good Neighbor Guidelines as a potential vehicle for resolving disputes like this. We're heartened to hear that the Gainies have had a productive dialogue, and regret that we've not had that opportunity. There's been no real dialogue about how this house might be worked in order to address our concerns. It needs to be lower, needs to be smaller. It needs to be lower to reduce its overall apparent mass and scale, but it also needs to be smaller to fit with the character of the neighborhood. They've made progress in bringing it down some, but it still hasn't met the test of compatibility with the neighborhood. And in our view, we don't think that it's appropriate for the board to make the findings of compatibility at this time. We would ask that you direct the applicant to bring back a smaller design to promote a productive dialogue with the uphill neighbors, and to come back hopefully with a design that is single-story in its application on this site. So thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would have you? You're okay? I can't hear you.
I also wrote down and I have some photos.
Weren't you just up here a second ago?
Speaking for my husband. Now I have not here.
If you speak, you're going to have to be up here. This is Beverly, right?
Yes, guilty as charged. Yes, Mr. Chairman and ladies and gentlemen of the board, during our last meeting, Mr. Chairman, you said that several nearby houses are the same size or have larger FARs than the proposed houses. I would urge you to look at those houses with large FARs. If you did, you would see that they look too large for their lot and subsequently detract from, rather than add to, the character of the neighborhood. The Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance and the plan for Santa Barbara were developed in part to minimize such impacts. Unfortunately, those houses were built before the Neighborhood Preservation Ordinance and the plan were written. Also, during the last meeting and previous meetings, it was clearly stated that the impact on private views was not an issue, only public ones. So I'm submitting 4 photos showing impact on public views, 2 from street level of High Ridge Lane and 2 from Arbolado Road. The story poles clearly show the size and bulk of the proposed project. Oh, okay. Also, during the last meeting, Mr. Chairman, you introduced private views as a viable issue by stating that the neighbors to the west, with the most impact, were not opposed to the project. Yes, they will be impacted, but the neighbors to the north will be more so, the board saw during the site visit. Those neighbors had expressed their opposition to the board. Since they are handicapped and ill, they have not had the energy to express their opposition as vigorously as some of the other neighbors. This does not give you the right to completely ignore them and their legitimate complaints.
Thank you. Okay, so I don't have any more slips. If anybody's wanting public comment, you have to jump up now. I don't see anybody jumping up, so I'm going to close public comment. And bring it back to their board.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to read a few names and letters we received. We received a letter from Sarah Stewart from 1235 Mission Ridge Road in support of the project. A letter from Graham Phillips at 1214 High Ridge Lane in support of the project. A letter from Dorothy Padilla at 1234 Green Ridge Lane in support of the project. A letter from Michael and Kathleen Cooper at 1704 Mission Ridge Road in support of the project. A letter from Laura Gilbert at 1214 High Ridge Road in support of the project. Letter from Glendon Dyruff at 1234 Mission Ridge Road in support of the project. A letter received from Mary Lou Fay at 1219 High Ridge Lane in support of the project. And another letter from James Knight as part of the Riviera Association, and he's neither in favor nor opposed of the project.
All right, thank you. So at this point, I will close public comment. Okay. And bring it back to the board for their questions. Any questions to the applicant?
Kathleen? Kelly? No.
Michelle?
Michelle. So you just read letters that were received that were, do we have any letters that were in opposition, or, because it doesn't seem fair to just read one set of letters but not another set.
I'm just acknowledging the letters that were received that the people are not here for. They submitted them, and they are equally righted to be submitted to the public record in support of the project. There were 2 emails that were additionally received, but Alan and Beverly Trial, they were represented. She represented them.
All right. Additional questions to the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Denise.
What were you thinking this tree would be?
I think that it would be something in a Mediterranean sort of theme. I see a citrus tree, something of that sort. Obviously, evergreen that would.
Doesn't have to be very high
to
do the trick there, I would imagine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Has to be full, but not.
Full, yeah, like a little fatty, but not something with a wide canopy, but not too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. That should do the trick.
Okay. Any additional questions? We've seen the project many times, so I think we all understand it pretty well.
Yeah.
So let's move to comments, if we could. I'd comment, I really appreciate the movement of further reduction, the 1 foot in one of the ridge lines, 1'9", 21 inches down. The guest house came down 2 feet from what I understood. Those are all, I think, positive movements. And the reduction of the depth of the portal is also appreciated. So those are my general comments, but I'd like to hear the rest of the board. Jim?
That they have done everything that we've asked them to do. They've worked with the height. They can't go any lower because of the oak trees, and those would be affected. And even lowering the guest house further down in height. And I think they've done pretty much everything that we've asked them to do. And I think it's an excellent project.
All right, thank you. Additional comments?
So, Mr. Chair, I just want to piggyback on that and say that I thank you very, very much for all of the attention to detail that you've paid. I think it's going to be a beautiful project. I do find it to be compatible with the Riviera, and that's about it. I look forward to seeing it in person built.
I second Jim Zimmerman's comments.
I will agree with what everyone's been saying. Thank you for the movement. Making the house appear smaller, lowering it.
And giving us the information with the section.
The additional information is important.
Yeah.
That helps a lot.
Clarifies a lot.
So thank you. It's a great, it will be a fabulous project.
Thank you. Aaron, how do you feel?
I like it.
Okay. So we had questions, we had comments. I do want to tell the public, I mean, there's some comments in here that say we're ignoring your comments, and that's not the case. They are important to us. We listen to every single one of them. It's not easy. There's a lot of different issues going around. The project is a spectacular design. We always, we had to struggle with the size of the project, and the applicant has worked very hard at reducing the massing and the apparent size of the thing. And by the time it's done with landscaping, I think it's just going to be a wonderful project. So I'm looking for a motion for anybody that applicant's looking for preliminary approval, if we can give them that.
I'd like to submit a motion for preliminary approval. I would like to have them come back during the working drawing stage, so that we can look at the details and see if they conform to the preliminaries that we approved.
Make an NPO findings?
I make an NPO finding mass bulk and scale I think fits the site. It's a very large site, and so I think it fits the scale.
Okay. Is anybody interested in seconding that motion? So Denise, comments on that on that motion, or additions to that motion? The motion is to come back to full board.
Oh.
Okay.
Is it project design approval?
Project design approval, right? Any additional comments? Okay, so let's take a vote on that motion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstain. One abstention, so the motion carries. Congratulations.
Mr. Chair, before we conclude here,
10-day appeal
Kelly
period.
Brodesson, Assistant Planner. This project has been appealed to the council and unfortunately will most likely be appealed today. And I would like to ask you as a board to send a very clear information to council, because that's what they really like to see on. I mean, I know you said you gave the project design approval, but I would like to hear some very clear and concise comments on the architecture, neighborhood compatibility. I mean, you know what I mean? So that they don't wonder.
Yeah. So Jim mentioned the size, bulk, and scale. I think if you kind of piggyback on there, comments about architecture, comments about quality of materials.
That you appreciate the reductions.
Yeah, the reduction heights, just so they can include it in their.
Well, I think the detailing of the residence is going to be beautiful, and I think with that detailing and the layout of the house on the site, with the landscaping, I think would be, it's going to fit the site completely.
Maybe a comment regarding the reduction of the bulk mass and scale over a period of 5 meetings?
Well, we've had 5 meetings, of course, and they have followed our suggestions all the way through. On each meeting, they'd change more. And so I think now's the time to approve it.
And definitely quality materials and workmanship.
Yes, you can see that,
in the design.
in the drawings, yeah.
Is that it? Okay. One of the other things that I think we could include are, the trees that are on the site. Those oak trees are being maintained, and they're feverishly being designed around to maintain those existing oak trees. Basically, the guidelines are consistency of appearance and is a, all good design. The compatibility part was bulk mass scale and felt that it was appropriate for that neighborhood. Quality architecture and materials, and public views. We don't believe that this project will have a negative impact on public views. So that was the motion. And that is it for this project.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So we're going to move to item number 3. This project was reviewed on consent April 18th, 2011, and referred to the full board.
Mine with the pink things on it.
I will
It's
read
just- it's the same as yours.
the agenda.
Yeah.
Description.
Tom, can you grab that?
1,117 Las Hoteras Road. Proposal to replace a 3,520 square foot, two-story single-family residence and garage destroyed in the T-fire. The project proposes construction consisting of 4,159 square foot, two-story single-family residence and an attached 617 square foot two-car garage. Site improvements include a driveway, auto courts, fountain, and approximately 1,225 cubic yards of total site grading. The proposed total of 4,776 square feet on a 46,303 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 93% of the maximum guideline floor to lot area ratio. So, we'll wait for staff a little bit, okay? If the applicant can introduce their team.
Yes, my name is Eddie Herrera. I'm from RRM Design Group, and I have our client's representative here, Brad Vernon.
Welcome.
Speak on behalf of the project as well.
All right, and your presentation, sir.
Yes, so basically we were asked to present this to the full board last week on consent review. And so what we're bringing forward is essentially the same package, try to get some resolution to some of the items that were brought up. Mainly, I think you've gone over all the details in terms of where the project is located. Just to recap, it's a 3-bedroom, 2-story residence with attached 2-car garage. It does have optional 4th bedroom component that can be converted into a library on the main level. And what we've done at this point is re-looked at a couple of items that were brought up, mainly the west elevation as it related to the neighboring property and how to treat that scale. So the project...
Can we start kind of in a site plan so we can see where we are?
The project sits at 1117 Las Alturas Road. I do have some view studies that we brought over and I believe we submitted to the board. And basically what it shows, it's a vacant lot right now. A home was lost there, and we're trying to come back with a new product that offers a 2-story home.
So it's this site right here, right?
That's the site right here, yes. Okay. The proposal is for a 4,151 square foot home and a 463 square foot garage. The footprint of the home and the way the lot sits basically has made us design a home in an area that's about 20 to 30% cross slope. We've worked closely with the fire department and actually have sent them this site plan here that you see here, just to kind of get feedback from them in terms of the position of the home and in order to make sure that fire access was not going to be an issue with its location. And so they responded back and they basically okayed the layout. There was 2 caveats that they brought up and making sure that we complied with, and that was the slope requirement to the driveway and the width for the driveway access in order for them to have enough distance to service the rear of the lot. Yeah, we can now, can we turn this sheet over here? So what we designed is a driveway feature we're also doing a fountain feature that encompasses a driveway. We want to do an entry court, have our attached garage not face a primary roadway, and not allow our tenants to back out onto Las Alturas. That was the main driving force of the site design, and not placing it as close to Las Alturas as it originally was. Two things. One was to try to get out of the 35-foot setback, and secondly was not to create a hazard for backing out into Las Alturas. The home is primarily stacked to keep the form simple and reminiscent of George Washington Smith's architectural style. We wanted to keep the form simple and allow us to work with the existing height, the topography terrain, so that our heights were kept down below the 30-foot height limit. The zoning calls for a 15-foot setback on both ends. We're trying to create a little bit of playfulness on the eastern side. The site's actually a little unusual in the sense that it starts to taper in, and it's narrowest at the midsection of the lot, and then it kind of widens out. The back of the lot actually is heavily brushed, and so that was another reason for really locating the house where it sits now. This sheet shows upper and lower floor plans. What we are proposing is an open courtyard coming into an entry and overlooking a two-story atrium that will have view to a gallery below. On the main level, what we want to do is provide living quarters, a master suite with an option to either do a bedroom if they were entertaining guests, or if not, have a library there. The client's main direction here was to try to keep this this main level accessible, so that they can have access to the bedroom, kitchen, living areas, library, all on one floor. And so we try to keep most of the day-to-day living activities on one floor, and the entertainment on the second floor. Oh, excuse me. Second floor, if you look at the second floor, gallery, we have a media and a wine cellar that's very important to the client. It actually gave us a little bit of opportunity to recapture some of that floor area that we were using by stacking the upper and lower floors together, and trying to keep that form simple and not spreading it out so that we were capturing too much more footprint than needed. The next sheet, what we're doing is we're showing you color materials sample board that shows the front elevation, the north elevation. This would be the elevation facing Las Alturas. And so what we're proposing is, hand-troweled stucco walls, two-piece Spanish tile, ironwork for some detail, but generally very simple in form. And also what we've done, another thing that was asked in a pre-conceptual review meeting was a little bit more detail in terms of what that fountain feature was going to look like, since it was so predominant to the driveway and to the entry approach. So we put together an exhibit of the floor plan and an elevation study of what that may look like.
Okay.
P7 shows some conceptual elevations based on the form, and looking at making sure that we were under the height limit. So we take an extra precaution and looking at those grades and making sure that our boundaries or building footprints didn't stretch out. And so one of the challenging things that we came across was just making sure that that ridge, because it's a simple form, and because we did not want to create a lot of undulation and keep true to the style that we were referring to, were being met. Some of the obstacles that were brought up in our last meeting was re-looking at the west elevation. And so what we've done is we've provided a conceptual revised west elevation for your review and for some comments to kind of give us better direction in terms of how to proceed. What you see is the proposed that came about on the 18th and the revisions after doing a site investigation and doing some site measurements on the existing 1121 resident home. We also met with the neighbor at that residence and talked to her a little bit about what we were able to do. So I believe that Brad, I'm not sure if you had time to meet with her this weekend, but we did meet with her. We talked to her briefly about what the intent of the changes were, and we hope that she is happy with the changes. Primarily what you'll see here is that we've reduced the corner more than 3 feet by keeping that ridge simple and continuous. And we've created some relief on the two-story face by providing a shed roof over the master. Right over here it shows a cross-section of what a particular point in the site plan may look like, along with a floor plan of what the undulations of the proposed west face would be. What we try to do here is basically look at what was existing and get a feel for the height and the scale of that, and try to treat our building as best we could to try to bring down the scale. We did a couple of street simulations, panoramic street view, in terms of how this home would sit on the lot. As you can see, the finished floor, the main level, is substantially lower than the elevation of Las Alturas Road. It's about 17 feet in grade difference. So most of the public views will be primarily kept. And we also did a simulation that compared the neighboring properties with the proposed. So you'll see 1105 placed and 1121 also placed side by side with our proposed product. That's all I have. If you guys have any questions.
All right. Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to open up public comment, and I have a couple public comment slips. If anybody else who's sitting out in the audience wants to speak on this project, make sure you fill out a slip. But otherwise, we're going to move to Penny True, and then after that, Don Vogt. If you could come to this chair over here, and you have 2 minutes to speak on the project. Sure.
And I have some handouts.
You have to speak on the microphone.
Hello, I'm the neighbor next door, and I would like to first pass out this letter to the members of the board so that I can run through this quickly. Okay. The first comment, the recorded easement for the sewer connection and the pool retaining wall are not shown on the proposed drawings, and I have a copy of the easement that I'll pass around. The proposed sewer line location, not what's there, but what's proposed, isn't shown. The survey doesn't show a missing oak tree next to the sewer manhole, and this is in the middle. I have something I'd ask you to just pass around. Also, the tree canopies are not shown at this location, and you can see on this site plan where I've done this, these are the trees, and this is my house over here. The proposed building will invade the privacy of the pool area located at 1121 Las Alturas, and if this is put next to the side where the oak trees are, you can see how this is oriented. and that I have been told this house is a Reginald Johnson house that's 85 years old. Yep. The far at the higher end, 95%, would indicate an excessive bulk and scale that could be appropriate with increased setbacks. Due to the narrowness of the lot, this is one of the narrowest points, with the building placed at its narrowest portion on the site, makes the impact more profound on the existing residences. The placement below its original location creates a canyonization effect between 1117 and 1121.
Penny, if you could wrap up quickly.
Yeah, that could be avoided if it was placed higher in the site. Solar access height calculations are not shown. Building might provide shading to my building. Proposed drawings don't show a conceptual landscape plan for the space in between. The proposed drawings are requesting over 1,200 cubic feet of grading, yards, sorry. It appears that this is a cut and that excess dirt would have to be removed, and you can read that estimation. It would also mean a lot of dirt going around and potential
Penny,
areas showing up.
We got it.
Okay.
You did a real good job of putting it all on a piece of paper. Appreciate that.
Okay.
You've done a really good job. Thank you.
Thanks.
Don Voigt.
Excuse me. I'm Carolyn Vogt. I'm married to Don Vogt, who's next, but I wanted to cede my time to my husband.
Did you fill out a slip?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. I'm Don Vogt. I'm the public view. We're the ones that are directly uphill from this project. And I do have some pieces to give you. This is what we were given when we first got in touch with Brad Vernon. It's now changed a little bit, I see. But our concern is the appropriateness of this particular project in its location. It's a nice looking house. I don't really have a problem with the way the house looks. The thing is that it looks like it should be on a flat lot at Montecito, not on a hillside lot in the Riviera. It's a big flat facade, and I refer to your own drawings relative to facades in the guidelines that in the first place, we've got something that's extremely horizontal relative to the view out, which is the harbor, and the skyline here is actually the water line and the Channel Islands. The picture that you saw just a minute ago that shows where the property is relative to Las Alturas is relative to Las Alturas. It's really not relative to me, but then again, that's the public view. And that really looks a lot like the one down here in the corner. In terms of horizon and a very long unbroken facade, or relatively unbroken facade. Now, I don't know whether this new addition or new change that they've proposed is going to make the right-hand side of the house look a little bit down. But again, the other picture that you have that shows a design that has broken up a roof line to keep it from looking long and horizontal. These are your own pictures. As a matter of fact, that looks a lot like this project has changed a bit. And I'm really wondering whether it's necessary, and the gentleman here just said we're having a two-story entry on a two-story house. Well, it's not a two-story entry in a two-story house. It's now going to be a two-story entry in a three-story house. Because if you go up 2 stories and then down a full story, it's 3 stories. Whether it's necessary to have 17 feet up on the entry. It really is very different. It's going to be hard to really screen this from the road. The road looks, when you drive along Las Alturas and you look down on it, it's going to be a broad facade that is relatively unbroken in terms of the roof line. We obviously have our own view issues, but as Denise pointed out last time, those are our issues. And the one thing that we would request very strongly is that your own guidelines also propose that for projects that are over 85% should have story poles. We'd like to see a story pole. I can't really comment on how the roof line exactly affects us without a story pole that would show the entire length of the roof line.
All right. Thank you,
And
Don.
that's time.
Thank you,
Okay.
Don.
Sure.
Appreciate that. So, had 3 slips. Anybody else on this project? If not, we'll bring it back to staff. Are there any other letters in the file?
Actually, she ceded her time to me. I should
Correct.
have another 2 minutes, but...
I think you had it.
Oh, I did have it? Okay. Gee, time flow.
Is there no other comments? No other. So I'll close public comment and bring it back to the board for their questions, please. I have a question. Can you provide us some information on what was there prior to the fire?
Yeah.
Not
we have a
weird.
Here's a picture.
We have a picture of it. Would you like to see it?
Hold on. Hold on. We're asking the applicant.
I don't have a pretty picture, but I have a floor plan.
Okay. And the site plan?
It's this ridge, and that's all that's on here.
Okay, so let's get the site plan on the camera now. Okay, so these are the same orientation right now. And can you provide us with information on how many square foot it was?
The plans were seems like they were drawn up back in the mid-'80s, and it was hard to really gather the total proposed because it seems like the addition that happened in the 80s was adding to a already pre-existing home that was constructed back in the 60s. So my best guess would be that the home was 2,700 square feet, 2,760, and that the garage was about 450 square feet on the main level, and there seems to be like a basement because there had some retaining walls right in here holding Las Alturas. So
Okay.
over the
But it was a 2-story structure?
it had a basement floor.
Had an underfloor. Okay. Okay. Again, additional questions from the board?
On our review sheet, there's a square footage that we're looking at that shows proposal to replace
35.
3520 with 4776. That's what it says.
Okay.
No, that includes the garage.
Yeah,
Yes.
that includes.
Hold on. We know the numbers. Has there been a survey on your property?
Yes.
Do we have it?
Yes, it's
I believe the second sheet there is the actual.
one sheet over.
And the one question about the sewer easement is not.
Right here. It is.
Here's the sewer
Yeah.
running through here,
Here's
and then it comes over.
So that one just is not listed in the title report. Okay. Did this survey show all existing trees in the canopies?
I don't believe they showed these canopies on these trees that are over here.
What kind of trees are they?
They're oak trees right there.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I do have a couple questions.
Brian, go ahead.
Ceiling heights on the lower level, like in the living room, what were you planning on?
10 feet.
Okay. Is the whole house 10 feet on the first level,
We-
or the lower level?
We would like to keep the lower and the upper levels at 10 feet.
So they're both 10 feet?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Jim?
Jen, is this the, that's the picture upslope
Yes.
On the gentleman that just spoke?
Yes.
Where were you standing when you took that picture? There's a retaining wall up on the road itself, and
Yeah, that retaining wall is actually on the other side of the road. So Las Alturas is actually in front of that retaining wall in that picture.
There,
And this was probably about 40 to 50 feet down the slope, looking back up, with the camera turned facing up slope.
You probably want the image correct.
so there is a, wanted to show you, we did take a picture standing on Las Alturas Road.
yeah.
So there's a wall that you see on the other image, and then his house is back away from that. So our project's way down there.
Any other questions, Aaron?
So on the east, west, and south, is the grade shown, is that existing, or is it there grading occurring?
No, we did our best to keep the existing grading. We want to keep the existing grading unchanged. So all the finished grades that we are proposing would be tying back to what's naturally there.
So the dark grade line is existing? Okay.
So kind of leap onto Aaron's question. We have 1,200 cubic yards of grading. Is that to just get down to the pad with that road, or?
That gets us, that gets the grading on the driveway, and that gets the grading around the building footprint.
And under them, right? It's all of it?
It's all of it, yeah. So is that your question, the driveway and the...
Yeah, it's a lot of cubic yards, so just wanted to understand where it's coming from.
Yes.
What it includes.
It includes the grading that's happening to get us into the driveway, and the grading to, try to get this two-story base. Essentially, a large portion of the home is predominantly put back into the hillside. So, what you see on the north end is essentially a story, single-story mass.
So this footprint, and these are relatively the same scale. Here's Las Alturas. This footprint is actually located on the slope right now.
Yes.
Okay. Additional questions, Bernie? Sorry.
Okay. I was wondering if you had met with the neighbor to the west and showed her the revisions that you've made. I know she spoke at our meeting.
The west elevation changes. Yeah, I actually gave that to Penny on Saturday. We just made those on Friday afternoon, so I took that over.
Bernie?
Thank you. I might have misunderstood because I heard you say something about backing down the driveway, and that couldn't be what I heard.
No.
Okay.
What we're trying to do is avoid that situation from the existing. I think one of the things that we were making sure that we were complying with is there's a proportion of the height, and making sure that we're under the height limit, and getting our driveway to not get steeper than the 16% that they require. So there's a distance and there's a magic number there that essentially sits our footprint where it is. And one of the biggest concerns that we have in a very strong, we feel strongly about the design is not having to back out into Las Alturas Road. I think that was, I think this road has become busier than what it was, back in when this home was originally constructed. And I think the setbacks pay close attention to that, and I think the zoning has changed for those reasons. And so I think we're just trying to keep in line with what the zoning requirements are asking us to do, which is pull away from Las Alturas Road and get us a better home.
And also you're respecting that 35-foot setback as
Yes.
well, correct?
Yes.
So that, in essence, is what has you place the home where it is,
Yes.
albeit in a narrower
Yes.
part of the lot and right next to the neighbor.
Yes.
Let's see. So that was what drove that.
Yes.
Okay. Let's move to comments if we could. How's the board feeling with the general positioning, massing?
I have comments.
Brian?
Yeah, looking at your elevations, and I know you're thinking about what's going on, and actually, I used to live in that house. When I first moved to Santa Barbara about 20 years ago, I lived in 1121. I lived in that little loft on the very top, so I'm very familiar with that house. And I know the property. So one of the things I'm thinking, I'm looking at your south elevation. I'm having trouble with it. It's very massive. I'm thinking you need to study stepping it back a little bit, breaking it up. If you look at the east and south elevations, there's a lot of massive walls going on. So I'm thinking, looking at, it's a little too aggressive, I think. So it needs to be stepped back, look at that. Also, this two-story window is a little too much. In my opinion, I don't think G.W. Smith would quite do that. It would be broken up a little differently. And I also recommend looking at lowering the plate heights, the roof heights of 10 feet maybe to 9 feet for the bottom floor and 8 to 6 to the top. One way you can get around with having volume in a room is to have a volume ceiling with a 8-foot plate height or something like that. So.
All right, thank you. Additional comments?
Mr. Chair, I think that I agree with what Brian said about the south elevation. It's the apparent height that is, addressed in our guidelines that is the issue, I believe, here. It is really, really up and high off the ground with all of this fill here underneath. You've probably seen our guidelines in that page that shows the apparent height. That I believe should be brought down. And maybe it's a matter of stepping. I know you kept mentioning stacking, and that was your goal, but...
Well, there was two things.
Hold on. Let's just get our comments out. You can respond at the end.
Other than that, from the uphill neighbor, I think that it's positioned rather well to keep your view. It's down slope. I don't see that as an issue personally.
Okay. Jim, Paul, anybody? Aaron?
I think the style and the detailing is appreciated on my part. I think, you've hit that on the nail. I think it's the massing on the south elevation. The big window gives it a grand scale. Perhaps on the south elevation, you add some fill at the bottom of those walls to lessen the apparent height. I know you have extra soil in your grading calcs. I think a site section through the building, a building section showing existing and proposed grade would be appreciated. The second story step back, as Brian talked about. And I think story poles would be a good idea at some point when we're at a point for those, just to make sure that those harbor views from Los Alturas are not compromised.
Okay. Paul?
No, he's
Jim?
I think it's a great site plan. The way you put the driveway down and you've been able to get the house low on the side. But looking at the elevations, I think that you could adjust the plate heights to bring it down a slight more, and maybe even you might be able to step the front part of the house down a slight bit, and not have it all on the same level. But I think it's a great site plan with the way you've handled the driveway and the position of the garage.
Thanks, Paul.
I'll agree with what people were saying. The one thing that I want to point out to people, in this front elevation, there's going to be a notch right here. And it hasn't been drawn because on their proposed concept, they have a scaled back element here, and then there's a shed roof. So this ridge and this ridge, there'll be a break right here, which will actually help on that one side, correct. I find that beneficial. The comments that other people are making, I agree with. There's something a little bit funky or weird or awkward with the proportions here, and it looks weirder in the color version. And it has to do with maybe the red arch, or it's the golden rectangle of the somehow this proportion looks a little strange. But if you're going to be lowering the plates or changing the entry,
Yeah, here's I don't know which one that is.
well,
That's an old iteration.
they all. Anyways, I looked at this thing and it looks a little bit too wide for the height. There's something wrong with the proportions here.
Yeah, it looks better.
Well,
the door itself.
I was looking at the banding that
Yeah.
goes around it that says, "Look at me."
Any other comments? I would agree with almost every single one of the comments. I think it is aggressive. Obviously, it's 95%. We're going to be looking at this one hard unless we remove square footage. So nobody specifically said. Okay, I thought you did speak. Go ahead, Bernie. No, I think it's aggressive. So unless we're going to reduce some square footage, we're going to really be looking at this rear elevation, the massing of it, the plate heights, and I think they could substantially come down. 2 10-foot plate heights is excessive on this one. I mean, you could go 9, 8 and volume the second floor, and it would feel fine. It would actually feel more George Washington Smith than 10-foot plates. So I would like to see some reduction, and again, plate heights coming down, square footage. There's not only is it 95%, but there's sort of 2-story volume space that's not calculated. There's loggia space that's not calculated. It's a lot of square footage. Correct.
So may I just add on?
Yes, you want to.
I think that it needs to be pointed out that it's supposed to be on the rare occasions that the 95% maximum size. And when you have a vacant lot, I don't understand why it's even necessary to go this big. It really shouldn't be an option as far as I think our board should be looking at this stuff. There's no reason that it needs to be this big. It doesn't need to be this tall. It could have a smaller footprint, and the architecture's great.
And you know, showing more information about the neighborhood. I don't know if you haven't provided a FAR study or anything. The house right next door, the Reginald Johnson house, I don't know anything about the site, but looking at the picture, it looks like a big house.
It's big.
So, but I don't know if it's on a bigger site. So that might be helpful to show more information with the neighborhood as well. Yeah, this looks like a pretty good site. Correct.
That's not even relevant.
But it is part of the neighborhood.
Okay.
It is the neighborhood.
Okay, I'll give in on that one.
But if we knew more information about that one, and
That'd be good.
Yeah.
Can I make one?
Go ahead, Brian.
And I'd recommend you talk with your neighbors and work out the issue with the pool privacy thing so that that can be ironed out.
So I think you've heard enough of comments from the board to say that they're not quite happy with the design yet. I think the style is appreciated. We've heard about the site plan being kind of nice, actually eliminates a modification or one that was there illegal before. And I think sinking it down so there's less impact from Los Alteros, not many people are going to argue with that one, other than all of the grading that needs to occur to do that. So I'd like to get a motion for the applicant to probably have an indefinite continuance. I don't know how long you'll need to study.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Do we have availability in 2 weeks? Okay, 2 weeks. Is somebody willing to make a motion for a 2-week continuance for the applicant to study, and we'll go down a list of items for a bulk mass scale, plate height reduction, positive comments on architectural style might be good.
I'll make that motion.
For the applicant to come back in 2 weeks with the suggestions that we would like to include our study reducing the overall size and height, and in particular the, on what side do we want, was that?
South.
The south side. We would like to see landscaping,
They will need a plan
landscaping plan
at some point.
at some point. Can anybody help me out on?
Reducing plate heights?
Reducing the plate height.
And if you, we'll add on to it at the end if
Okay.
it's acceptable to you. So that's the motion. You hear a second?
I'll second.
Second in discussion. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, some clarity on the site plan showing the next door neighbor, especially with their pool, show where that's located.
Okay. Building section was recommended.
How about a site section?
Site section, building section. Definitely play heights. Any other comments for the applicant to roll into his study?
Portions of the front door.
To study the proportions of the front.
Entry.
And that'll naturally kind of change if we do play heights.
Leave that part on about 30%, so let them look at it on their own. No one else kind of jumped on it, just me.
Places appearance or apparent height.
All I would say is to have the applicant don't go sort of above code requirements, so they don't poke out excessively into the sky. Okay, so that's the motion. Does everybody understand the motion? 2-week continuance? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And abstained, motion carries. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to move to item number 4, which is, let me see here, 1304 Crestline Drive. This is a proposal for 169 square foot first floor addition, 248 square foot of second floor additions, and a facade remodel including the replacement of an existing pitched roof with a flat roof on an existing 2,790 square foot two-story single-family residence with attached two-car garage. The proposal includes 652 square foot roof deck above the first floor with exterior stairs, a 42 square foot second story deck, a rear patio, and swimming pool. The project received staff hearing officer approval on modifications and alterations in the required interior setback. The proposed total of 3,207 square feet on the 10,605 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District is 64% of the maximum floor to lot area ratio. Project design approval is requested, and we have to be in compliance with the staff hearing officer resolution, which I'll probably get in 1 minute. So, if you could introduce yourself.
I'm Dawn Sherry. I'm the architect for the project.
Welcome. And if you could start your presentation, we'll start over the hearing officer.
I made one last minor change to the elevations today, and I would prefer to show you my change because it does affect, it's just a stone veneer on the front of the house that I changed, but I think it does affect it, so I can, whatever I need to do, Michelle, fill it out, but that's the only thing that I did today, and I brought 3 copies of that, so I will just...
Let's start on the site plan before we get into the elevation.
Yeah, we can do that. You guys have seen this project before. It got positive comments to go to staff hearing officer back in 2009.
There's several members of the board that hasn't seen the project, though.
I don't know if any of you remember the project. It's up on Crestline. The house right now has a pitched roof. It's kind of one of those funky two-story. It's got a stone veneer. It's kind of an odd style. I don't really know exactly how to describe it, but it's a little, photos would help. Photos would help, Michelle,
Yes.
if you have those. And so you could see what it looks like, and then it will help to see what we're doing to it. We're proposing to remove the pitched roof and replace it with a flat roof. And hidden behind the flat roof would be solar panels. this is the house right now.
This is the house right here, right?
Yes, and there's a little bit bigger photo of it. It's at the top of Crestline, so looking in both directions, it's kind of at the crest of the hill. Here's another photo of the front of the house. There's a bunch of photos of the neighbor, too, because we're proposing a deck, and we've shown the deck 15 feet away, and I'll show you that. I have the minutes also for the last... We have a lot of photos if anybody wants to see all these. But I have the minutes of the last meeting, and I could just... Let me just start by saying that we reduced the project size. The reason it took us so long to get back here was because the owners just decided that they didn't want to do the aggressive addition on the rear of the house. So looking at the site plan, we have removed one of the additions on the back of the house. The previous approval had...
Was it approved last time?
The previous submittal that got positive comments, I should say, was to do an addition off the kitchen, and then this addition, and then a large covered patio with a trellis on the back. So this was an illegal addition that the new owners are going to take out, and we're not going to rebuild it. And then instead of this weird sort of glass enclosure that did have a permit prior, we're taking that out and putting on an addition that is much more in keeping with the style that we want. We were proposing a master suite above the garage that we're still proposing, and not much has changed on that. An interior remodel. The pool, we haven't made any changes to that scope of the work either since the last approval. So this you'd seen prior with these new stairs coming up to a roof deck. Although there was a covered patio here and a kitchen addition. We're not doing that now. The modification that we received was for these two windows and this fireplace, get some light in this room, but it required a modification, and then to put a stone veneer on the fireplace. The upper level master bedroom we're still doing the roof deck. We are doing a very small pop out to this wall that doesn't hardly affect the look of the house at all, but it's needed because of the need to get a closet in this room that makes sense and just make it usable.
So the shaded areas are the additional.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So the front of the house already has this 2-story volume. It had a pitched roof, like I said. Wait a minute. This is the old elevation. Let me show you the one. I took this, one of the comments was to study the stone, and so I wanted to review what I think is more appropriate there. So if you want, I can go through the comments, or do you want me to just go through the whole project again really briefly?
Probably the whole project quickly.
So here's the master bedroom addition above the garage. Like I said, right now the garage has a pitched roof. So we're proposing, as we always were, a small balcony on the front, but since it's in the front yard, we'd like to have a low wall with just a little piece of glass up top. We were always proposing the trellis. We were always proposing the new garage door. These are the two windows that we got a mod for. This is the new stair that we were always proposing with the wall. We were asked to I'll go back to the site plan really quickly, because we were asked to make sure we were 15 feet away and or provide a screen, even though the neighbor to the west is a lot lower than this property. We've been really sensitive to that, and this is our new stairs, but we have a fireplace, and this is all a little screen wall. The new site plan shows this back to 15 feet. This was an old one, and I have the new site plan there. But we've brought the deck back to 15 feet from the property line. And then as you come up the stairs are within that 15 feet, and so is the fireplace, but it was requested that we look at if we couldn't meet the 15 completely, to provide a screen wall. And that's comment number where is it? 6. Move the rear deck on the northeast side 15 feet from the property line or raise the deck railing to be an effective screen. So that's what we've done there. Going back to the elevations, the rear elevation, we still, rather than have the addition off the back, we've decided to keep just some corbel trellising for shade and then a bunch of vines that are growing. We were asked to provide vine pockets as one of the comments. That was comment number 5. So we've added those. This was the way we've always had it with the stairs going up. But now instead of having this addition off of the kitchen with the French door out from the bedroom, we're having just a little Juliet balcony off of each of these bedrooms to provide more light. They're north-facing bedrooms, and the windows are kind of high right now. So we'd like to just make them feel bigger. One minor alteration, a window turns to a door on the lower level here. We were always proposing that. This is that addition on the back we were always proposing. So going back to the comments, the alterations in the setback requiring the mod are acceptable. Number 2 said, study the railing at the master bedroom balcony, but we've since changed that design. It said raise the stair balcony railing higher than the top of the adjacent glass railing. The railing that I think you guys were talking about in that comment was this railing, and we just made it high so that we would have privacy. From the front, that railing is, I'm looking at it upside down. It's not amazing how that doesn't work. The railing is behind this wall. This little wing wall comes out. So we've kind of changed that design so that comment doesn't really apply anymore. Number 3 said to study the windows and proportions of the northeast elevation, which are here. And I haven't really made any changes to those.
Okay, we'll get our comments out.
Yeah, you can look at that one. Then the one that I changed was, it says study the raising the stone parapet at the front of the garage to improve aesthetics. A modification for this alteration in the front setback would be acceptable. And that was, I had this element in stone and it wrapped the corner. There's already a piece of stone that wrapped the corner right here to here, but it was recommended to extend it back. But rather than do that, I changed my mind entirely on that stone, and this is why. I think that a little piece of stone from here to here would be inappropriate for this design because I would have to get a wooden header anyway, because I don't like it when pieces of stone are supporting the garage. To me, it just doesn't look realistic as a use of materials. So I just today think it's better if I just keep the plaster and keep it simple instead of trying to fit a wooden header and then one piece of stone along here. And I didn't want to make the whole thing stone. And I didn't really want to get a modification for adding a thicker veneer to the front of the garage. And I also never really liked the fact that the stone came to right here, and I don't really think it's any better if it comes to here. So I just, for a lot of different reasons, I just think it's not a great idea to put stone there. The parapet height to conceal solar panels, I put a note, even though we're in schematics, that the solar panels will not exceed the height of the parapet wall. As we get into construction documents, we'll confirm that. And then study the operation of windows for functionality, which is kind of an ongoing, vague, understood comment.
Okay. Any other parts to your presentation?
No.
Okay. So at this point, I'll open up public comment. Is there anybody in the crowd. I don't have any slips, any letters from anybody. So I'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for their questions.
Do you have any drawings that actually show the house the way it is today, and then so we can compare it to today's look to what you're proposing, or do we just have to have the photographs that are all we have to look at? Okay.
I do have those, though, in the office, but I didn't bring them.
So this is the house from the front, and this is the house from the front, no?
No, the house from the front is right here.
The garage, okay. So-
Yeah, the other front is that side.
Do you have any other houses in that neighborhood that have flat roofs?
Yeah, there are.
Okay.
There's at least 3 or 4 on Portezuelo, and there's several in the area because one of the styles of this neighborhood was actually a contemporary. The way they were built with flat roofs to begin with.
The prior design was flat roof as well?
No, this is the...
No, the prior design that was in front of the board.
Mhm.
Okay. Questions? Bernie?
Are there any other houses in the neighborhood that have exterior staircases? 'Cause
I'm not sure.
I know there's some houses that are kind of similar to that in the original subdivision.
So Bernie, this project was in front of our board 2 years ago, and it's pretty much the same design location for the stair? Yes.
Yeah.
And the board gave the applicant precise instructions on what they wanted to see in there. So I think that's been in that position for 2 years, design-wise, and the board has seen it, and they didn't say it wasn't acceptable in that position. Correct? It has no approvals.
So we have to just look at what we have
Correct.
in front of us.
Correct. Paul?
An observation. When we look at what we previously looked at, which was 2 years ago, I just want to bring the board's attention. I want to look at this drawing and I want to compare it to what's happening up here, and just so we can understand what was lost when the design changed, and how there was a notch here and there was a bit of the architecture, and here this wall got filled in at this point. The stone, that was one issue, and then on this back elevation, this is what we had before. Sort of, I want to say, providing a little bit more relief. And if we go back to this drawing, oops, sorry about that. This is what's being proposed for us today. So, in some respects, I want the board, or I'm mentioning to the board that this might be kind of a new project in the sense that because there was things that were dropped from the previous design that I just want to bring to people's attention.
All right, thank you. Any additional questions? If not, we'll move to comments. Paul started kind of that.
Yeah, I'd love to see the inspiration behind the style of this house in terms of its compatibility with the rest of the neighborhood.
Don, can you show us any houses that are photographs of flat roof?
Maybe. We had this conversation before, but you probably weren't here. Yeah. And maybe it was in ABR when we had other projects in this neighborhood before the board was formed. But this topic of conversation has come up in this neighborhood about contemporary homes. And it didn't come up, I don't think it came up on this particular project, but this subdivision, like I said, was designed with at least one of the original homes in the subdivision designed as a flat roof contemporary home. And so there are quite a few. If I had to guess, 10% of the homes are that way. And I'm not sure the number.
Okay.
And I'm not seeing any in here. Because I wasn't asked, and it wasn't brought up for this project. But
Additional comments?
Jerry, what's holding up the railings in the back there? Do you have some recess?
they're going to be just
steel,
steel, and then just supported with the floor framing because they don't need to have people walking out. They just wanted the extra light in the room. They're going to be sliding doors with little Juliet balconies.
You know, it'd be nice to get maybe a small trellis over those openings. Because before, you know, it was broken up with a railing all the way across, and this railing here. And I think the railing would look really good there above the openings.
I could extend that one.
Well, maybe
Or
keep
do
them
a
separate.
separate one.
Yeah.
Denise, Aaron, Paul, Bernie? Nothing? Okay, that's fine.
Mr. Chair? Yeah,
Denise?
I agree with the architect about the removal of the stone on that one facade and over the garage. I think that it looks a lot cleaner without that. And I like the stone just where you have it on the one side here. I think that is contemporary enough and makes more sense to me. I rather like the design. I think it's appropriate for the area. I've seen homes up there that have the same contemporary feel to them. Let's see.
I have one more comment.
Denise done?
Are you finished?
Well, yes, I'm done.
Okay.
So, Paul, you pointed out this change here from before, and now it's just a solid wall there.
Yeah. It's this right here.
Yeah, I think this is really nice.
I want to say we lost some of the romance or the architecture articulation. It might have been busier, but now it's gotten to be boxier. And so by it being boxier, it's more stark and modern, and it needs to have what Brian was saying, the design inspiration of where the original forms are coming from and how they're relating. We need to go back to some of that element some of the joy is lost or some of the charm.
I would agree with that comment. Although the stone, broke up massing, I think losing that expression of the balcony on the side really created a box-like appearance. I'll just jump in. I still think the windows might need a little bit more design thought and breaking up. I don't know how, is that just going to be a fixed window?
No, I'll probably have a small sliding operability from here, going back, and from here going back. But I just wanted a high ribbon window because that's the master bedroom and it's at the street.
That's fine. I think that will help start
yeah.
breaking up the facade and all that. Bernie.
I have just a couple of comments. When we introduce a very, very contemporary house like this into a traditional neighborhood, one by one, the neighborhood changes. But when you add a combination of glass railings, exterior staircase, roof deck, and the overall architectural style, I really think it's a bit much to put all of those features all together all at once. And I don't think the neighborhood has currently, I'm not aware of any, maybe one roof deck that we approved, and just the combination of all those things. And I don't think the exterior staircase fits into the neighborhood.
Thank you. Aaron.
I don't know, I'm struggling with this one. I think it's broken up nicely, and the elements are generally there. And there are other contemporary homes in this neighborhood. I know there are. The long windows is a good comment. I was contemplating how to the northeast elevation, maybe that plaster sill between the first and second floor gets carried on, or something there too.
That's the one that's just, it's like that now.
Okay.
We're trying to make it better by adding the trellis. But the house above it is really, and I know I'm speaking out of line, I apologize, but the house above it is higher, so that, it's kind of in a hole, the second level is.
Okay. So how's the board? I'm sorry, Aaron.
That's right.
Yeah. How's the board feeling generally about? I mean, square footage wise, you're you're less or more than what the board saw 2 years ago?
Less than before.
Okay. And then it's the same general style as what the board saw 2 years ago. How is the board feeling now, since it's a different board, about this project? Is it something that we eventually will find approvable in this neighborhood?
I believe so.
Well, I personally think it's kind of unfair if she's been before the board before, but I also am very uncomfortable with this design because I need to see more samples of what the other homes. To me, this is a very, it's a sculptural type of architecture, modern stuff, modern architecture, and I think it demands a different type of audience. And your audience in this neighborhood is the Hawaiian, Polynesian, 60s, Japanese mansard roof kind of things. I don't know what to say, but it's like you said, it's weird.
What kind of audience is that?
Yeah. But so I'd like to see other pictures of contemporary homes in there. I can tend to agree with Bernie. You're introducing a lot of elements in this neighborhood. So that's my feeling. But like I said, you've been before the board before, so I don't know.
Let's carry that thought a little bit further before I ask. Paul, you actually were the firster on the last project, and I was the seconder.
Sorry, Don. It's just that I'm more of a traditional person, and I would see taking the house and making it more modern. It has to be done very well, and because there's a certain charm or there's a certain character to the home, and then when we change it, it has to be an improvement, and that's where you were going. And then when some of those elements got removed, the building is now losing some interest and some character, and so I just think
add a trellis back onto the back.
It's more. I mean, that's why I'm interested in seeing what the original house drawings were, so that people can see this is the character of the home. We're going to move into this character. Here are some other homes in the neighborhood of this style of architecture. I'm following the 1950s modern, or that kind of look, or whatever it is, to have some parallels. Because right now it seems very broken up, discontinuous, choppy. A lot of things happening, and that's where I am visually struggling with the house. It seems like there's a lot of things happening in different areas. There isn't a theme.
Could you be more specific about that?
The back elevation. I mean, the trellises on one side versus. It just seems that the trellises.
That's why I said it. If it's an issue, it was a money issue is the reason they didn't do it. But if that would, I'm hearing that from more than one person about that rear elevation, and I'd be willing to add posts and a small trellis on the back. I don't think that would kill the project.
And the front elevation. I mean, I don't have a problem with the stairs and the deck, and I understand how all that's going to be used, but the view from the street and what you have is a negative is the home itself has that large post and a huge window, and that's what you have to work with, and you have to take that as an oddity and make it better with these other things, so then it looks more proportionally, cool or something, and that's where I'm struggling with the way it's all being put together. It just seems a little too. There's solutions, but they just they lack interest for me or character.
I wanted to kind of read. You were here in 2008 as well with this project. It looks like.
Yeah, because the deck was closer to. It was the same project.
It is, and the reason why I bring that.
Closer than 15 feet.
And it sounds like it was generally the same style at that point. And the reason why it says the board finds the contemporary style acceptable. So I didn't see that in 2009, but in the 2008, the board did give. Some comments to the applicant that this style was appropriate to the neighborhood. So we did see contemporary solutions at that point, in this neighborhood. So
I would agree that they're all modern style architecture in the neighborhood, and that's fine. It's just that I think we need to work on the forms a little bit. And
so Paul, why don't you put that into a motion?
Oh, goodness. The board is fine with the approach of going with the contemporary design for this application. The board would look for some articulation to soften the building masses from the street as well as from the rear elevation. In particular, the deck over the garage door along at the front, correct, and breaking up the mass along the rear elevation,
which we all.
That's fair enough.
Is that good? We have that? Okay. Is there a seconder to that?
I'll second that.
Tie. Denise, you win. Okay, is there more discussion on that? I think that was a pretty clear motion.
I'd like to see photographs of other
I
contemporary
got
homes
that.
in the
I
neighborhood.
got that.
Okay, good.
And I'd like to see, and Paul probably won't put this in the motion, but how the exterior staircase is compatible and meets our guidelines.
You know it's in the rear yard too, right, behind the living room element?
Let Paul decide. Let
Okay.
Paul decide. He's the motion.
No, I would say that's a little bit too unfair because we vetted that whole issue and the board is okay with the use of that deck and stuff in previous.
That's just the motion.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Not including.
I have
Is there
just a couple things I'd like to add. I'd like to, have you do a few details.
Okay.
Like, what is this, where you go up and go back. I think that's going to make a big difference, with the flat roof.
Was there any comment? I'm sorry I didn't ask this about colors.
They're on there, and it's just an off-white. It's not a white, just an off-white. I'm not opposed to that, and I think that's interesting. I just hadn't gotten
As
there
a
yet.
designer, you maybe just want to look at that.
It actually might be beneficial.
Okay. So, everybody understand the motion? Was it indefinite?
It could be a 2-week continuance.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So let's vote on that motion. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. I think unanimously.
Who abstained?
I don't know. Did you say any?
Glenn's voting for you.
I haven't said the motion carried. I don't know what the vote was. Okay. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks for your input too. It's all good.
So we're going to move to item number 5, 707 Chiquita Road. This is a proposal to construct a 361 square foot one-story addition and a 206 square foot two-story addition to an existing two-story, 2,714 square foot singles family residence with a 274 square foot basement and an attached 374 square foot two-car garage on a 13,073 square foot lot in the Hillside Design District. Approximately 20 cubic yards of grading is proposed. The proposed total of 3,929 square feet is 96% of the maximum floor-to-lot area ratio. If you could introduce yourself and your presentations, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Sophie Calvin, designer, and I have the owners here as well.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kevin Gleason, and this is my wife, Nikki Gleason.
Hi.
She's nervous.
I'll be out of I have some street photographs that I took, so I have 2 copies of the 3 sheets as well. And what we're proposing on this project is a 2-story first floor and second floor addition. Chiquita Road, it comes to a dead end here and then continues over that. So we're at the very end of that, and I have, this is the street. So Chiquita comes up, De La Guerra, and Chiquita stops. We're at this parcel, and these were the 20 closest parcels that we did a study on. I'll bring this back out if we have questions regarding FARs or square footage. And then what the addition is down off the kind of southeast corner. There is nothing currently in this corner, so this is what we're proposing is 2-story. There's a 2-car garage, and underneath that 2-car garage there is a screened porch from a remodel a number of years ago that was done on this house. So here's streetscape before I get too far onto this. So this is kind of south side of the street, so this is all Chiquita. These are like the next 3 houses over. It's really well screened from Chiquita. This is the neighbor directly across. Maybe it's helpful if I bring this out too. So I'm taking photographs here, standing here looking back. This is that next neighbor over, and then there's actually quite a bit of landscaping here, screening, and then we're going down in this direction and then going across. And then the next sheet, I'm looking on the north side of the street, so I'm taking pictures of this is down here, coming across over to the wooden house, which is here, the wooden decking that you see, and then that's this, which is actually a 3-story house here in this space, and then standing in front of that space, that residence at 714, looking down at Chiquita at the end.
So hold on.
And then directly across are all these large terraced stone walls. So these are these houses sit quite a bit higher than the Chiquita Road elevation. And then now in this one, which is the site project, I'm standing pretty much at the end of the road and looking back. So what you're seeing is the 2-car garage. Like I said, there's a lot of landscaping in front, and then the front reads as a single story. So the property drops down, as you can see from the topography. Go back to the site plan. So this elevation is a single story, reads as a second story, and then this drops, the property drops down, and so this side is 2-story. If you don't mind, I'll go quickly to the elevations, and I'll start here with the floor plan. So on the lower floor, what we're doing is an interior remodel of adding a den and part of the screen porch. This is a permitted screen porch. We are adding a half bath and hallway and closet off this bedroom. This bedroom has a very small, inefficient closet underneath the staircase. So we're creating a little bit more space there. And then the den. And then an interior staircase takes you up to, this house doesn't have a breakfast room. So we are doing an addition off this kitchen and opening this up to this. So this is that 2-story element that we're adding. And here's the elevation. So this is the element that we're adding. I did include the as-builts. So this is what currently is there. Flip back. And this is what we're adding in front of that element. It might help with an aerial photograph. I was asked to bring this as well. So this gives you a better idea of what we're infilling. It's this corner here. So this is Chiquita, and you're looking down at some of the photographs here, and this is the corner that we're adding this den below and breakfast on the main living space. So,
anything else?
The doors and windows, the plaster color, the tile, everything would match like for like. The house was remodeled, like I said, just a number of years ago, and kind of just matching everything that's currently there.
Okay. That's the end of your presentation. I'll open up public comment. Ma'am, I see, is this for item number 5?
Yes.
Okay, if you could fill out that quickly and come up, or fill it out when you're done.
Can I add one comment? These 2 neighbors were notified of this addition directly across the street, the ones that would be most affected, and they're both in favor of the project.
Okay, ma'am, if you could come, I'm sorry, you'll have to now get out of that seat.
I'm so sorry for this. Our car is in the shop and was being fixed.
Your name, please.
Terry Gray.
Oh. Terry, you have 2 minutes.
Okay, my only question is that I wonder if they could put up story poles, because I didn't get an opportunity. I just got the mail that had it in it today, and I didn't get an opportunity to see what the impact would be. And since I missed the meeting because we had to go pick up our car that was fixed.
Where do you live?
At 627 APS.
Okay, we're not seeing anything here. If you could
I don't think it's going to show up on this because APS, De La Guerca does like this and then comes back up. So APS is up here.
I'll show you where it is.
It's not on the map, ma'am.
Oh, but
it's not on the map.
Okay.
Okay. We'll consider that when we do our comments.
Because I haven't had a chance to see anything or even hear your meeting because we had to go pick up our car and they were going to close at 5.
I understand. We'll have the drawings up on the monitor as we speak. We haven't even done our comments yet.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to be sure that I asked for story polls so we could see what the impact would be from our house. Because
We understand.
nobody has approached us to talk to us about the plan or anything like that.
All right, we understand. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you could just watch on the monitor, you probably will see some of what the proposal is.
Yeah, I will see the proposal.
All right, thank you. So is there any other letters in the file? If not, we'll close public comment, bring it back to the board for their questions.
Was there any altering of any of the square footage due to the fact that there's a basement? Was there any of that formula calculated, or just it's all straightforward?
As far as I'm concerned, maybe Sophie can provide additional information.
Sometimes there's a
I
reduction
didn't
in
do any
basement if it's
alterations
Less
to
than
the
4 feet,
FAR
that,
calculation.
is that what you're talking
Sort
about?
of.
Headroom kind of thing? Yeah, let me go to the only portion of the basement, I did count all of this as net and gross basement square footage. This area is crawl space, even though it's open to it, it's 3 feet or less in height. So this square footage was not included in the basement, but but this space was.
Okay. Additional questions? Did everybody see the FAR study? Okay.
I did.
If no questions, we can move to comments.
I would like to, on your aerial, where her house is, does it show up on this?
On?
Yeah.
APS.
No?
I'm thinking it's way up here.
Oh.
No, it's to the right.
Here?
As you're looking.
APS is running kind of.
It's that house right there.
Do you want to?
And this is where you're...
Oh, this one?
This one?
No, yes, yes.
This one? That's an APS?
Yeah, there's a driveway. See the driveway
Okay.
that goes down?
So your lot is basically almost adjacent. The back of your lot is almost adjacent.
The view is right down that way.
Okay.
So I have no idea where they're.
Thank you.
This might help too. It must be, what's the address?
627.
627, she's here.
If we can go back to that aerial on the big screen and see the roof plan of the existing house, and then right where your pen is, that's where the proposed addition's going, correct? And it's a 2-story element, but it's filling in that hole?
Correct.
Correct. That's what I wanted to bring to all of our attention. That's where the 2-story addition is being proposed. Okay. And questions, just refresh my memory, the actual top or the ridge of the 2-story proposed addition, how does that relate to the existing structure?
I think it's about 14 inches, but I'll show you the elevations. It's 14 inch. Here's the existing ridge. And what we're proposing is a tower kind of element, 2-story, and so it's not, it's actually,
Okay. No other questions? We can move to comments? Let's move it along.
I think it's small, petite, and I think the actual little bit of a character of breaking the roof up a little bit is actually going to enhance it because it provides more modulation in the roof, and I don't think it's going to affect, private views and public views because it's nestled in an existing alcove. I don't see that as being an issue.
That's a comment. Anybody else?
I don't have a problem with it. I think it fits in very well, and I think it will, like Paul said, enhance the rear elevation with that element coming up. So.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I too am in favor of the project.
I think it's a fine addition. It looks fairly seamless in the elevation.
agree with all the comments, yeah.
It's a pretty innocuous addition, so.
Bernie, your comments? I mean, I know that this is 96% FAR, so we want to take a look at it. We just don't want to go, yeah, it looks great.
Right. I'm thinking more, well, I'm thinking about that too, but it is set down. It's not going to be that tall. However, we do have guidelines about meeting with our neighbors, and I'm just trying to find what page they are so that if we do move this project forward, maybe we could make it a condition or a suggestion that they do invite the neighbor and show, the footprint, and so everybody is not surprised and everybody's on the same page. And there's a whole bunch of different pages in our book that suggest how to do that.
We have met with our neighbors.
Yeah, we've talked with all the immediate neighbors. I
Well,
didn't realize.
Yeah,
Well, the ones
Anyone
that
else?
the ones that are concerned.
Okay. So I think the majority of the board is supportive of the addition. I think the style obviously is in keeping with the existing house. It looks well integrated. I'm just going to now look for a motion for anybody to put together that would provide some sort of approval. Looks like we could approve the project or get project design approval if this is enough information and if everybody feels comfortable.
I'd like to make that motion for project design approval and make neighborhood findings for consistency of appearance, compatibility with the neighborhood, quality of architecture and materials.
Okay. Is there a seconder to that motion? Second.
To consent?
I think it could come back to consent, personally.
So comments, additional comments?
Is the technicality kind of going to provide a color board for the files? When they
Again,
come back
this
to
is a
consent?
match existing, so
It's a
it's
match
just a
existing.
technicality.
Yeah, but they need to provide a color board when you come back for final.
What about landscape?
It's a small footprint of
So there's nothing really there. I just
disturbed
didn't
soil.
say anything about it.
I don't see it.
Shaded around that area of addition if it's, it seems to be nestled in the oaks there.
I don't think I would require a landscape plan for such a small addition.
Okay. So,
So what about my comment? How can we tie that in to the motion?
the thing is, if we give approval, it's going to be hard to back up and meet with a neighbor and say, what do you think? And if they don't like it, how do you not approve a project once it's been approved? So motion is approval right now. And I don't know if Denise is willing to put that into her comments. I think it would be appreciated to meet with her and to make sure that she understands that there's I guess, probably a vertical elevation change, and there's probably oak trees there, and that to relieve, it's no higher than the house is now.
Look where it is. Look where it is. It's moving it out to the exacting to our sight line.
So that's the concern is.
But where I would say, just under discussion, is this board does not take private views into consideration, and that we acknowledge how impacts happen when there is a private view that's altered. But this is such a minor alteration, even though this might be your one and only slot of the ocean, and that addition's going right in there. We look at the total scheme that this is a small addition, and if it obliterated your view, it's a private view, and we look at public views. If it was a wide swath of a view and 90% of it was destroyed, we would discuss how we could alter the addition. But this project that's in front of us has a very small footprint, and so the impacts are minimal.
I certainly, Mr. Chair, don't believe that story poles are in order for something this minor, but also, aren't you quite a bit higher up in elevation?
Not really.
Not really.
No, because there's a street that goes, a driveway that goes way down there.
Because there are trees that are taller than this addition that are between you and her.
I'm not sure about that. That's why I was asking. I'm not sure about
It looks like a
I
canary
don't
ants.
think it's a problem.
No, no.
The first thing I found about this was...
Did you see the site photo? Did you bring out site photos?
Yeah,
These were street photos. Let me show you site photos, because It's pretty well,
trees back in
yeah, it's pretty well green. Here's looking back. I'm on the upper floor looking east. There's quite a bit of vegetation there. And then, oh, here, look at this. I mean, this is really the whole backyard is just covered in oaks.
Concerned about that side,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, which is more, yeah.
And that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion's on the table, it's seconded, we've had comments, we all understand, there's a neighbor here that has some concerns. So, but that's the motion on the table. So I'm going to take a vote on that motion. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? So the motion carries.
Well, then
If you-
tell me, what is this purpose of this meeting? If I can't find out more about it or even know where it's going to be, why wouldn't you even just delay it for a couple of days so that she could just...
It's all right here.
It's been...
It's not right there because you can't see the perspective from her house, and I don't even...
But it's also, that's a view issue from your house, and we're not
Yes.
protecting your view.
So therefore, I could do that to somebody, to the one people behind me? I could just go right up in their view?
Well, we'd have to review it, but
Yes, in other words, you're saying yes that I could.
you could propose a project map.
Well, I'm just concerned about the equity of not caring about...
We do care. We care. That's why we have the board. We really do.
It doesn't seem like it.
Okay. So the project is,
I feel really disappointed that it's not turned out.
the project's approved, or got project design approval. There's a 10-day appeal period. You can appeal the project if you want. Okay. So we're coming back to consent. Was it an indefinite continuance to consent?
Continuance to consent.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Can I talk to you guys?
Still missing one photo. There's two sets here, I'm sorry. Oh. Yeah, I will.
So I'm going to be stepping down from the next project.
Thank you.
I don't have an opportunity to go that way. You have to go way out of your way.
Approached like 4 or 5 neighbors that we thought were, we did make an effort. We didn't even realize when you said
All right, we're calling 2547 Medcliff Road. This is a concept review, new item. Proposal to construct a 1,285 square foot addition, including a 264 square foot loft and an attached 65 square foot pool equipment storage area to an existing 2,645 square foot one-story single-family residence with an attached two-car garage. The residence is located on a 1.11 acre lot located in the Hillside Design District and in the appealable jurisdiction of the coastal zone. The proposal includes the removal of 11 existing trees, the demolition of a 91 square foot storage structure, and a detached 65 square foot pool equipment shed. Other site alterations include the filling of an existing pool and construction of a new pool and spa, solar panels, new site stone and permeable patio areas, a new 436 square foot cantilevered wood deck, new site walls, fences, and landscaping, including a new 6-foot-tall stucco wall and entry gate. A total of 335 cubic yards of grading is proposed. The proposed total of 3,930 square feet on the 1.11 acre lot is 78% of the floor-to-lot area guideline. The project requires Planning Commission review for a coastal development permit. Comments only. Project requires environmental assessment and Planning Commission review for a coastal development permit. So we're just making comments.
Sure. My name is Steve Weldon. I work for Suzanne Elledge Planning and Permitting Services. We're the agent for the applicant.
Tony Span, architect, Harrison Design Associates.
Courtney Miller with the Office of Katie O'Reilly Rogers.
And in the audience, we have Ed and Joan Tomei, who are the owners.
Thanks for being here. We have any staff comments on this project?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, Vice Chair. I just wanted to read an email from the case planner, Kelly Broadison, who couldn't be here for this item. But given that this is a CDP and requires Planning Commission review, this particular parcel, as the applicant will probably go into in detail during the presentation, the 75 years bluff setback line, I believe, is beyond the existing house. And so they are proposing to do some improvements in the rear yard, a cantilever deck and a bocce ball court, and at this time staff is just going to make the comment that they are not decided as whether or not they're going to support those improvements.
Okay.
Because it's
Thank you.
on that bluff side.
Thank you. Okay, and then your presentation, please.
Thank you. Very complete project description. Thank you. So we've submitted our application on April 4th, and we, as you know, we're in DART review. We've got some photographs both within the drawings, and I've got some to hand out as well if someone doesn't have some. And the neighborhood predominantly is single-family residence, one story for the most part. There are a few two-story structures spread in amongst those. I did walk down to the Wilcox property to see if I could see it.
Do you have a site plan where you indicate where you...
Sure. These I do have the indication below where they're taken from. They're all taken from Medcliff. Walking from the Wilcox properties right there in the green, and Douglas Preserve. And I walked from the west side all the way down Medcliff and took photographs looking down the street on both sides. So this is just looking east from the property towards Mesa Lane. This one is looking from, this is the only view I could get even remotely of the property. It's from the Douglas Preserve. That's the little part of the pit, part of the roof, and that's going out as far as I could in the cliff to look. I wasn't purposely trying to obscure it with the tree, but that's as good as I could see. This is looking back from the front of the residence towards the entrance to the park area. This is from the intersection of Medcliff and La Jolla, which is right to the west of the project site. Sorry, east. This is the neighbor to the north. And the area is predominantly used by persons that are parking there often. The street area, I should say, is used by persons parking there to use the Douglas Preserve, so there's a lot of vehicles parked. So that's what you see primarily. Again, walking down the north, this is what you see. This is looking northwest from the residence towards, I think it's called Rose Lane.
Selrose.
Looking back towards the residence, there's the hedge in front of it right now.
That's subject property. Okay.
This is the residence directly to the west. This is our site. And this is the one directly to the east. And then continuing to walk to the east, there's a fenced property there. So that's the general feel you get of the neighborhood. There's some more, again, photographs in here, but they're pretty much the same.
Okay. All right.
The owners have met with a number of the neighbors and shared the model with them. The drawings and the reactions have been very positive so far. We haven't heard any negative comments at this point, although I'm not sure if staff received any comments from the neighbors. Okay. So with that, I'll hand it off to Tony to go ahead and give our presentation.
Thanks, Steve. The model tells 1,000 words, so I'm going to pass this around. You're welcome to look at it as I go through the drawings. It's an 1/8-inch scale. Real quickly, the existing house occurs here. This is new. The existing garage occurs here. This part is new. You'll see that there's an existing pool that is getting relocated to this location. And this is a new fence to meet the code, a 42-inch high, and this is behind the setback, a 6-foot-high fence to create the courtyard. But you're welcome to look at it. I'll go this way with it. Steve went through most of the pictures. I believe they're the same, except for the aerials. The house, the pool, the garage, what's known as an aviary, and you'll see, it's hard to see it, there's a pool equipment building that's going to be removed as well. The aviary will be demolished, the pool equipment room will be demolished as well. This the same shot from different angles. House is a little bit difficult to photograph because of all the different angles, especially with the neighboring house, which is from the street, kind of in front of our house. We did the best we could to give you a pretty good representation of what's there now. kind of self-explanatory. If you have questions, we can come back to these pictures.
Okay.
The existing pool, the existing shed, the existing aviary to be removed, relocated. I want to note the top of bluff as delineated by our geologist and surveyor, and an existing patio on grade at this location. Just want to point that out. There's also, I should have pointed out, you'll see from the pictures, there's developed landscape here. There's trails, paths, some decks, all on grade. At the time we submitted this plan, we thought we were Tier 2. We don't know where we're going to end up. As obviously going through DART, that'll help us decide. What we want to show to you is that from the top of Bluff back, everything will be brought toward the street. There's a substantial storm drain system being proposed to collect all the water. It'll all go to a tank at this point to meet Tier 2. Obviously, if it goes to Tier 3, it'll be a larger tank. This acts as a retarder, the idea being that the water wants to come into the street at a different rate. Courtney from Katie's office will talk about the landscape, so I'll try not step on her toes a little bit. Erosion control plan. And some of the details. There's the tank. Again, Courtney will talk about this. There's almost all the trees will be removed. There's an existing dragon tree, a specimen, beautiful piece, that's going to remain.
Can you go over the types that are being removed? Just briefly or quickly.
Primarily, go ahead. Sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Thanks.
Most of the existing trees are citrus trees that were planted by the previous tenant, and they're really insignificant, not in very good health. I believe there's 3 junipers, 2 of which are topped, one of which is in poor to fair condition, an Atlantic cedar, which has also been topped in poor condition, and
we didn't top them, by the way.
There's an avocado tree also, which is in fair health. There's also an existing oak tree, which we're retaining. It's on the south side of the property.
Thank you.
Oak tree is
right where your hand is.
Yeah, right here. There it is. Actually, it's there's the critical roots on there.
And that is the only oak on site.
All right.
Demolition, the idea is to keep the main structure, the main massing of the existing structures, except for this area, because it's very odd the way this house was designed. There's an angle in here, and it's very strange. You'll see it better on the next drawing, but we want to remove the roof in this area and make it more, just to have this existing roof run straight through. There's quite a jog in here that was originally designed, and we're not really sure why. So you'll see that this existing part of this roof, as well as the chimney, comes down.
Okay.
The aviary comes down, and where the addition comes in, the eave gets removed. Very diagrammatic existing conditions.
Okay, it's existing.
Okay. Proposed floor plan. A couple of things. Right now, when you walk to the site, if you're on the sidewalk, the way in is into the driveway, and then there's a gate here. One of the things we want to do is create a sense of entry, so we've opened up this area called, and you can see it on the site, on the model, I'm sorry, and so that you'll see the front doors, the front gates to the property, and that'll separate it from the purposefully separated from the driveway. We've taken this fence and pulled it back. We've taken the trash enclosure, which occurs here now, and put it to the side so it won't be seen. We've also created a way to allow service to go straight back into the bluff area, which does not occur right now, through a series of gates. As a visitor, you would come into the main courtyard. There's a pool in this area, the addition connecting the garage to the house, a covered outdoor barbecue area, and this will show you what we're talking about in terms of the existing angles that the house has that we're trying to fix or correct by removing that part of the roof and running it, extending from where it is now. I'm going too fast, but know. Again, a difficult drawing to see because the existing neighbor's house is really in front of you because of the angles, but this is what you would see from Medcliff. The garage, the addition behind it, the addition of the house way back. You can see on the model, the front doors, the spa, the fence, which is about 21 feet back, the existing neighbor's house here. We tried to show you from the street. A little difficult because of all the angles, but we tried to do the best we could. A typical section. So we've got the 42-inch high wall off the sidewalk, the 6-foot high wall back, the garden, the pool, and Courtney will talk about it more of a boardwalk feel as you walk in.
That's the cantilever.
And the deck in the back.
Does that show up on here anywhere?
The deck? It's right there.
This deck right here. And the cantilever would extend from beyond the 75-year bluff retreat line. That was the intent. And we worked with our geologist and structural engineer to come up with a mini pile system that would be around here, and then the deck would cantilever over the setback.
But you can see it's about 12 inches off grade. Very, very shallow. The idea is to try to get it as close to the living floor as possible. So you'll see that in the floor plans. We'll talk about that in a second. That's the reason for it. So you'll see it here. Let's talk about that. The idea is this area can open up, and this could be a nice living area all at one level. That's the reason for trying to get this deck raised about 12 inches off grade. Easier to do in the front. But you come through the front doors, you've got the two-car garage which exists. We've got a pool bath behind it, the pool equipment hidden. We have a laundry, mud room. This will have a direct access to the pool. We've got the boardwalk system. We have an outdoor covered fireplace, a bar, a kitchen, dining room, living room, and a series of bedrooms and bathrooms. The master bedroom in the corner, catching the corner views, another bedroom. By default, we found an attic up here that we decided it would be good. You'll see it in the next plan. So we have the stair up to what we call a loft, an exercise room, and that's that space. We're incorporating, right where Steve's pointing to, PV panels, and on this side, the thermal solar panels facing south.
Okay.
If I'm going too fast, slow me down.
No, it's good.
This is the loft plan. I'm going to do what you guys all tell me never to do, and I all tell you never to do. But this drawing is not clear to me, so I'm going to substitute this and leave it with you. If you look at this, for some reason, when Glenn drew this, he put the floor plan here. I don't know why, so I asked him to remove it. This is the roof. This is underneath the roof. Here's the loft plan. So all new roof is this the hatch. You can see it. The rest is existing. And then this loft plan occurs, as it shows in the model, just inside of here.
Okay.
Exterior elevations, I think the model's probably easier to see. This house has a couple angles, it's kind of difficult to see, but we've got this drawn all in CAD, and I want to, maybe a good point in time to talk about the roof, the colors, the exteriors. In the current plan, we've got a combination of asphalt shingles and a metal roof. You'll see might be easier to just show it here, on this area and on these eyebrows, we were thinking of metal roof and asphalt everywhere else. One of the questions we have for this board is, if the budget allows, what do you feel about losing the asphalt and going to metal roof everywhere?
We'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. Exterior colors are a taupe. We've got stone. You'll see this stone is also brought inside. It's a mountain ledge. For cost reasons, it's a Eldorado color Shasta. Copper gutters. You'll also see that we've got two light fixtures. This is the one we originally picked. This is a second option. Again, maybe this board would weigh in whether they like one or the other.
Okay.
The only other material that we might bring forward is we're thinking of something like this, or it's a recycled material for the boardwork for the deck. We're thinking of maybe using that for like the screened areas by the garbage area and by the outdoor shower, out like this. If not, we would just use this as a fiber cement board. We could also use a fiber cement board, but just an idea of maybe bringing something from the landscape onto the building. The other lines that you see, those are actually scored plaster. Probably go with as thin as we can get reglets, maybe a Fryer reglet, something thinner. so that just reads as scored lines as opposed to smooth plaster.
Okay.
That's basically the presentation. I'm going to show you a couple more images before I let Courtney take over. The inside, how we bring the inside into the house, the outside into the house with the stone at the front. I wanted to show you an idea of what that loft looked like. It's about 7 foot on one side to here and about 9 foot on this side. And then the lighting plans, again, we're showing you this light fixture, but we'd like to get comments possibly on that as an option, as a preference. And that's it for architecture. Unless you have questions, I'll turn it over to Courtney.
Okay.
Okay, so the landscape for this site is mostly consists of low water, low maintenance trees, shrubs, ground cover, and grasses. Mostly bluff top type of beachy landscape, minimal landscaping. Everything will be suited for seacoast conditions. As I mentioned before, we're retaining the existing dragon tree, which is a beautiful, very large specimen. Also the existing oak tree in the back. We will have, as I said, even more minimal landscaping on the bluff side of the home. Hardscape will consist of stone on slab around the pool, as well as stone on sand behind the house. We also have the decking and boardwalk system here, which leads up to the front door. Also on the fireplace deck, as well as the deck at the back of the home. That will all be recycled, some type of recycled wood product, considered permeable also. For the fencing, currently on both the east and west property lines, it's a 5-foot high wood fence, which will be retaining and repairing where necessary. And that basically covers it. Within the front yard setback, we have a small vegetable garden. There's an existing Eugenia hedge here, which we will be trimming down to 42 inches. And also, as Tony mentioned, the new 42-inch high fence will surround this area. There's a new pool, a new spa. We will also have a raised portion of wall here, which will be 7 feet, clad in stone, as a water feature that will, pour into the spa and then into the pool. I think he mentioned the outdoor fireplace area with some soft seating. Part of it's covered. And on the back, at the south side of the residence, we also are including a bocce ball court, which will be DG and permeable.
Okay. Nice. Very nice.
That's it.
Okay. So I'll open public comment. I don't see anyone in the audience, so I'll close public comment. Any letters?
Yes, we do have a couple letters. One from Janie Ray Webb, who is, writing regarding the remodel and addition. She says she lives at 2549 Medcliff Road. She's seen the scaled model in the project, and it looks creative and well planned. She's writing to show her support for the proposed project.
Okay.
States the elevation facing the street is appropriate to the neighborhood. The elevation facing the ocean has kept the same appearance and position of the original home. And she's happy to see the neighbors upgrading the home, think it's a great design. The other letter from Felicia and Andy Erickson, also a letter in support of the project. They live at 2545 Medcliff Road and said that they've seen the drawings and the scales and they're pleased with the plans and think it will be an attractive addition to the neighborhood.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I've got one question. It said that there's grading like 300 and some odd cubic yards. Can you explain the grading? Is it just the pool, filling it in and rebuilding, or is it?
Majority of that. Majority of the wall, and then the rest of it is we're going to have to scrape about 6 inches from the top, from the bluff. Right now it goes over the bluff. We're going to scrape about 6 inches down and bring it.
I'm sorry, your mic isn't on. You might have to.
Sorry, Paul. So the majority of the grading is for the pool. You'll see it on the grading plans on the Penfield and Smith plans. It's the filling in and then redigging it out. The other part is that the existing bluff, where top of bluff is now, if you were to stand there, water goes over the bluff. So we're going to have to take about 6 inches, scrape it, and bring it toward the street.
Right now, about here, it goes over the bluff, so we're moving it back to here, so we capture all that water and bring it this direction.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
I have a question.
The house next door here, I'll use the model since this is right here. Is this going to cause quite a shadow? Has there been an issue about that? Have you mitigated that? Or?
The solar ordinance doesn't apply to that property line. It applies to the front. We went through that. We've shown the project to the neighbors. They're okay with it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Madam Chair, I have a question for staff. Can you tell me why staff's not in support of the bocce ball court again? I missed that.
Well, generally, again, it's within the 75 years setback, and generally they don't propose any new development, or they're not generally supportive of new development in that 75-year.
It's not in the setback, but I think and I'll just add on to that, because I was told by our planner that although it's not in the setback, you can see the setback line right here, we're outside of it, but because of its proximity, I understand that they want to look into it further, because they think that perhaps the development of it may cause some disturbance within the setback, so we're looking into that.
And one more question.
Yes, of course.
What were the comments about the cantilevering of the deck from staff?
That was the same as the bocce ball court. Generally, just development within that close to the bluff line.
Okay.
I had a couple questions on this fence. What is this fence going to be made of? Is that
Wood.
this fence coming around here?
Wood, Jim.
It'll
Wood
be wood.
fence? And you're going to have planting in front of it then?
There is an existing hedge, actually, that will be behind it,
So you're going to keep that
and the fence is right
behind
actually
it?
not shown correctly on the model, I guess.
Well, there's a hedge on...
There's also a,
This is in the
a hedge
parkway,
within the parkway
right?
that will
Oh.
be
That's the hedge.
we'll be keeping
right
now.
here.
I thought it'd be nice, being that you have this, the high wall fence here, it might be nice to do something else here.
We also have a row of citrus trees that will serve as a nice green buffer up against the 6-foot wall from the street view.
Uh-huh.
So, in addition to other landscaping in that area. So,
Jim, what are you thinking? When you say you had something else in mind, what are you thinking?
Well, I think it's really nice to be able to get an open front. In this case, being that you have this setback, which is nice.
Maybe we need to have the model of the TV.
Yeah, let's bring the model over here.
Yeah.
Oops.
It's just an opportunity, not to have a fence, but maybe do that in landscaping of some sort. Being that you have this high fence back here, it'd be kind of a nice buffer, I think.
So, Jim,
To the wall.
the client was just whispering in my ears. One of the ideas that we were kicking around was maybe a chain link fence and let the hedge grow through it. One of the problems that this particular property has is immediately to the west is the Douglas Preserve, and people walk right in front of this house. Dogs come onto the property. So I think our clients really want some sort of a barrier, and that's the reason for it.
Okay.
So we weren't thinking chain link, just like the wrought iron kind of a look.
tubular steel.
That would disappear in the hedge.
I think the wood's more neighborhood friendly than wrought iron.
Okay, any more comments? Aren't we on comments yet?
This was questions.
Oh, questions then.
I'll go to comments.
Okay.
I think it's fabulous. Get ready to go on to the next mark. The only thing, the only real comment I can come up with is that in your drawings, Glenn's chimney surround is kind of boring. So he needs to work on that. No, the architecture is great. It's a style 1950s, and you're going to follow through on that. And it's the building materials. I like the way the stone is working. The minor encroachment of 16 square feet in the back, which might be perceived as additional development in front of the house, is so minor, and it actually will enhance the architecture. So it's you're not really doing it to add living space. You're adding it to simplify the architectural design and create good architecture. So I think it's a great project.
Paul, can I ask you, roof?
The roof comment, if you had the money, the budget was available, all metal roof would be fine. Because you have a low slope roof, you're basically going to have to put on a hot melt roof and hot mop if you're less than 3 and 12, and then you're going to be putting on your asphalt shingle just for looks. So you're kind of buying 2 roofs if this is less than 3 and 12.
And the light fixture, do you have a preference?
Actually, sort of neither one of them. I don't know why.
And plus, we should all weigh in on that.
Well, that's true. We all
agree
could.
with Paul.
I'm just writing down comments.
Because one's a little bit too craftsman-y style, and the other one is too, I want to say, industrial and not. It's lacking a little bit of interest. The modern style is there, but it's too streamlined. It's too watered down or too simplistic.
Thank you.
My own 2 cents.
Anyone else like to weigh in on that?
So you probably know how I feel about modern architecture, but I think you did a really good job. I really like your front entry. I think you made it's exciting and fun. And yeah, my only concern was the shadow issue, but apparently that's not an issue. So I think it's a good project. I agree with Paul, the standing metal seam, if you can do it. And I have no problem with the Craftsman. I think that would kind of go well because it's kind of an Asian flavor, and that style tends to be sympathetic with that style. But it's my 2 cents.
That's a nice light fixture. I've used that before.
The Craftsman?
It's kind of has a nice Craftsman feel to it.
Anyone else?
Yes, thank you. So for staff, so the solar ordinance and the fact that there may be shadow in the neighbor's yard, that is not an issue. Is that true?
Look at where how the proposal would affect the property to the northerly neighbor, and the northerly property line is the street.
It's here.
So it's not a solar.
Yeah, okay, thanks. My comments are that I'm very happy to see the design is compatible with the neighborhood, I think. It's simple, it's nicely done, it's the most amazing piece of property, and I don't think they've gone overboard. It's very nice. My only concern when I was reading it is I'm not in favor of the cantilevering of the deck, because I think that is going to start a bad precedent for all those homes as they get improved over the next few years.
Aaron, want to weigh in?
Yeah, I think it's a great project. It's spot on for the site. 2 comments on the landscape plan. One is to plant, I only saw 1 native species proposed along the bluff. So I would rethink that and make it more native. And also I think the parkway, the public side of things, could benefit from a street tree in the parkway where those junipers are. So but other than that, I think it's a great layout.
Okay. Good. Well, then I'll throw in my 2 centavos. I think it's a great project as well. I really like the beachy feel to it, and and I like very much the landscape. I think it's really going to enhance this. It's very nicely done. Okay, so who wants to craft a motion then? We can only make comments. I guess we're not going to make a motion. Okay. All right. All right. Who wants to take a shot at it?
You can always appoint somebody besides me.
Right, let's go. I love this power.
The board
Just kidding.
makes recommendations to the planning commission that the project is appropriate to the neighborhood. Its size, bulk, and scale is compatible, and that the materials of construction and quality of materials are good. And there is a concern about the cantilever deck as setting a precedent. Anything else? Oh, and the landscaping was very well done. Is there anything you want to add about landscaping?
The
street tree.
Providing a street tree in the parkway.
Recommend providing a street tree in the parkway.
And provide native plants at the top of the bluff.
You get that? Let's provide native plants at the top of the bluff.
I'll second the motion. Also like to see about, we didn't really weigh in on the metal or non-metal roof, and I don't really think the metal roof is compatible.
No? I vote for the metal roof personally.
Well,
So we will
vote on that?
want to have a little straw vote on the
Yeah,
on the
let's do
motion.
We can wait and see, make sure Planning Commission is
Yeah.
okay with
Oh.
it. We can provide some comments, and then they can come back at the next meeting. We can solidify the roof. The issue with the metal roof, I think, for some people is the reflectivity of it. And if it's a matte finish, I want to say even like a dirty kind of finish versus a shiny finish, that would always, the more shiny metal roofs are something people are reactive to.
I've never seen one come in the shiny metal. They just don't make them that way. That I've seen. Have you seen that before? No, but they're usually always painted, or they have some kind of integral color in them somehow. Oh well, at any rate.
Madam Chair, can I ask about the light fixture? If there's
Yeah,
a preference one way or the
well-
other from the board?
Well,
Again, it's just
I don't
comments.
think I voted on that, did I? But for me, I think with the copper gutters, this one would be a nice
Point to the
choice.
Craftsman, yep.
Yeah, just because of I think it would work with that. It's copper.
It's important to keep the light down in the nighttime because a lot of people are looking at the stars.
What are other people's thoughts about the roof?
I'm for the metal roof, personally.
Metal roof.
Metal roof, hands up.
I like the metal.
Okay, so that sounds like...
Since we had a comment on the cantilevering, I don't know if that was the feeling of the whole board, but that's an important component of the project for us, so we'd like to hear from everybody if possible. If
Okay, I'll throw in myself. Well, after looking, it's only 12 inches off the
It's
ground.
not really a cantilever.
It's not really even a real true cantilever, in my opinion. It's still on grade, is it not? I mean, you're just putting so it's on grade, and I don't know that everyone understood that it's on grade. It's
I mean, I'm not sure how
the support. I think it's because the support portion of it is back, so that makes that front part cantilevered, but it's really not cantilevered. It's not hanging in the air or anything. Yeah,
over the
no,
bluff,
it's
'cause
just
the
a support.
bluff's right next to the house.
18 inches.
Move that we delete that comment because it's probably going to add confusion. If
Or just clarify the size and the way that it's secured or something.
Okay, so is everyone in favor of the motion? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
That's
very
that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I
Now we can
just,
adjourn.
actually clarify the motion for the record for a moment, since we had a lot of discussion
Yes.
afterwards. What I gathered is that the board is overall supportive of the project style, size, bulk, and scale as acceptable to the neighborhood, and then study adding a street tree in the parkway and provide native landscaping on the site. And then the majority of the board finds the metal roof to be acceptable. And then did you want to add anything specific regarding the light fixture, or was that just more for comment?
I think it was
direction?
just a comment.
Okay. And then we eliminated the concern with the cantilever deck from the
Should we, just one more thing, should we have been addressing whether or not we can support the bocce ball court?
Not at this point.
Not at this point. Okay.
Michelle, I just want to clarify with Aaron that the native plants were along the bluff top, not the entire parcel.
Thank you.
Okay.
One other thing that Planning Commission will ask for is on the irrigation plan to provide a flow sensor and a master valve in case of a breakage. So just a detail.
Thank you.
Okay. Now I'll adjourn the meeting. No, we did. We voted.
And second.
All those in favor? Aye. It's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.